and make any of you wait for this grand performance by Indian Ocean, one of the most iconic bands that our country has seen, and pioneers of the kind of change that we stand for. Over to you.
ये दुनिया थोड़ी क्षणभंगुर, ये दुनिया थोड़ी थेथर है। तुम जितनी जहर समझते हो बस उससे थोड़ी बेहतर है। ये दुनिया थोड़ी क्षणभंगुर, ये दुनिया थोड़ी थेथर है। जितनी जहर समझते हो बस उससे थोड़ी बेहतर है। ये बूढ़ी खचड़ा गाड़ी है जो धक्के धक्के चलती है। ये उजड़ी ठाकुर बाड़ी है जो अब मुंह ढक के चलती है। सूरज माना गिरता पुच्छल खारा था, गहरी लंबी नदियों में भी पानी खारा खारा था। जिसको हमने सूरज माना गिरता पुच्छल धारा था, गहरी लंबी नदियों में भी पानी खारा खारा था। डूबना डूबना हाथ का डूबना, डूबना डूबना हाथ का Thank you. I want to take you back 500 years to a song written by, a poem written by Sant Kabir Das. और उसमें it's झीनी रे झीनी चदरिया झीनी रे मीनी. तो उसको मैं एक्चुअली आजकल ऐसे इंटरप्रेट करना चाहता हूँ कि जो हमारी दुनिया है, it's like that झीनी चदरिया he's talking about, this beautiful cloth that it took, साईं को सियत मास 10 लागे, ठोक के भी नहीं. So the earth is like this beautiful cloth, and yet we use it in ways that destroy it. So Kabir says that, let me be the person who tries to return the cloth the way it came to me. So I see in this song a kind of modern environmental ethic where we do not destroy the world and try and keep as much of it the way it was given to us. Okay? So here we go. झीनी चदरिया झीनी रे झीनी. झीनी रे झीनी चतरिया झीनी रे भीनी झीनी रे चतरिया झीनी रे भीनी जय राम नाम रस भीनी चतरिया झीनी रे भीनी झीनी रे झीनी चतरिया झीनी रे भीनी जय राम नाम रस भीनी चतरिया झीनी रे भीनी डोले पांच तत्व गुण दीनी अष्टकमल दल चक्का डोले पांच तत्व गुण दीनी साईं को सियत मस्त लागे साईं को सियत मस्त लागे साईं को सियत मस्त लागे दुख दुख के भी धीरे 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 चतरिया धीरे धीरे राम नाम रस पीनी चतरिया धीरे 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 चतरिया धीरे 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 राम नाम रस पीनी चतरिया धीरे धीरे
कबीर ने दास कबीर ने दास कबीर ने दास कबीर ने त्यों दर्दी
Thank you very much. All right. Well, the next song has really nothing to do with this. Okay. But I'm going to play it because a lot of the people who called us here said कि बजा दो यार बहुत पसंद है ये गाना. अब मैं इसके words को reinterpret कर सकता हूँ. I can क्योंकि a song called बंदे. And it says, "अरे रुक जा रे बंदे, अरे थम जा रे बंदे, कि कुदरत हंस पड़ेगी." So maybe if you want to look at it like that, can we just stop and think and let nature smile again? Because I remember जब pandemic चल रहा था ना, जब सब कुछ बंद हो गया था, suddenly you could see the Himalayas from Jalandhar. It was insane. They were Nilgai and Sambar on the Rishikesh, Haridwar highway. There were animals roaming around in the towns of Kerala. There were dolphins in the Venice lagoon. The sky, you would actually see the blue sky in Delhi, जो कि दिखता नहीं है. Delhi में sky is roughly a yellowish brown most of the time. तो अगर चांस दिया जाए तो वापस आ सकता है, ये तब हमें पता लगा. तो उसको लेके हम कहते हैं शायद आज अरे रुक जा रे बंदे. हंस पड़ेगी। कि कुदरत हंस पड़ेगी। अरे नींद है सपने और सपने हैं भूखे कि करवट फट पड़ेगी। Thank you very much. The last song is, it's a hymn to a river, and I find it beautiful कि हमारे Indian culture में ना, we treat or traditionally have treated nature as something to be worshipped, rather than something to be merely exploited as. I mean, हमने देख लिया यार क्या होता है exploit करके ना. अब हम वापस आ गए ना, हमको दिखा दिया नेचर ने कि भैया पंगे मत लो, थोड़ा सहम के रहो, हमारे साथ रहो, हमारे साथ चलो, ऐसी होगा. तो मध्य प्रदेश से ये लोकगीत है, निमाड़ इलाके से. निमाड़ इज वेस्टर्न एमपी बॉर्डरिंग गुजरात एंड महाराष्ट्र. और नर्मदा नदी, नर्मदा माँ का एक नाम और है रेवा, माँ रेवा. तो माँ रेवा थारो पानी निर्मल खल खल बहत हो जाए. दिस आई थिंक इनकैप्सुलेट्स द फैक्ट दैट हमारे पास है यार ये सब, हम कर सकते हैं. वी कैन डू इट if we have the love for nature within us, as we know we do. When you hear songs like this, you know it's there. Hi Parshu, I see you.
खल खल बह तो हो जाए, बह तो जाए मारे बा. हो मारे वाथर पानी निर्मल बह तो हो जाए रे. मारे वाथर पानी निर्मल बह तो जाए, बह तो हो जाए.
Amit Kiram, come on, let's go. Thank you very much. I would really like to do half a song for Madhu. Where is he? He's somewhere.
Let's
There
just
you
sing
go.
the first part.
Can we
That's it.
do a little bit of Kandisa and then stop? Okay?
शुरू वाला पार्ट करते हैं बस.
अच्छा, छोटा सा शुरू का पार्ट करते हैं और फिर हम रोक देते हैं क्योंकि आप लोगों को बहुत कुछ करना है और हमें जाना चाहिए. Okay, so here we go. So this is old Syrian Christian hymn from in a language called Aramaic. तो ओरिजिनली केरला का नहीं पर अब केरला का बन गया. अब केरला का ही गाना है. Thank you very much. That's Tuhin Chakravarti, Himanshu Joshi, Nikhil Rao, Amit Kilam. Doing sound for us today, Mr. Vikram Mishra. Doing lights, Nikhil Dutt. I am Rahul Ram. We're in Ocean. Thank you so much for calling us. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that special treat for Madhu and for all of us here. And what better way to start the event than through music? Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Indian Ocean. Now, sustainability, ladies and gentlemen, is a lot about a collective commitment, collective responsibility, and music is a great way to bring people together. I would request Rahul to just spare a few more minutes and help us better understand the inspiration behind these songs that we just heard, that we've all heard over the years. Mareva, Kandisa, these are songs that we have grown up and listened to as anthems in a way and still resonate and carry that strong message over the years as well. Rahul, I also have to tell all of those who are present here, not many of you may be aware, Rahul is actually a PhD in environment science. I have to. I have to take the liberty of saying we're glad you did not walk down that path and actually took a diversion to actually bring us this special treat over the years. And I have to tell you, I've been a fan, and every time I listen to you, I get goosebumps. Every time your performance is magical. If I can request you to just tell us more about the way in which your journey has transpired over the years. As someone who closely has been involved in the fight for the environment, to preserve the environment for the future generations, and also the fight for sustainability, because sustainability, like I said, is something which talks about collective responsibility. And that's something that you feel strongly about through the power of music, which of course acts as a catalyst.
Okay, that's a long question. So, but yeah, I actually got interested in environmental issues way back when I was in school. I was in school a long time ago. मगर आपको अगर याद होगा कि उस टाइम पे roughly around the early to mid 70s, Project Tiger, suddenly the tiger had disappeared, you know. And then the Ministry of Environment and Forests was created. And the national parks became a bigger thing, and sanctuaries. And suddenly we started realizing कि शायद we're missing out. Maybe we are destroying our forests and our wildlife, and it's time to act. Silent Valley, agar aapko yaad hai. So this was, so I got interested in all this, and I joined a student environmental group. I went up and spent a month with Sundarlal Bahuguna ji with the Chipko Andolan, Garhwal Himalayas, where I actually got to see what people are doing in the villages to try and get back the forests which had gone away. And जब जंगल वापस आता था तो पानी वापस आता था, पानी वापस आता था तो चिड़िया वापस आते थे. तो औरतों को they had to spend less time collecting fuel wood. They had to collect less time collecting water, because you know women in the Garhwal Himalayas work so hard, and there were cases where 5 or 6 women would tie themselves together and commit collective suicide because life was so tough. And there were no young men in the villages. All the men had come down to work in the plains because there was no money. And so वहाँ से मैंने सीखा कि जब तक आप अपने गांव के आसपास जंगल को नहीं बचाओगे, you have to think sustainably, you have to think locally, and that was really a big thing for me to get into the environment thing as a whole. I got also interested, दिल्ली वाला हूँ, दिल्ली में हमारे खून में DDT दुनिया में सबसे ज़्यादा. Indians, Delhi wale had more DDT in their bodies than anybody else in the world. That was shocking to me, and I was doing chemistry, so I got interested in that. And करते फिर मैं IIT कानपुर गया, मैंने chemistry की, और फिर मैं अमेरिका चले गया environmental toxicology करने के लिए, जहाँ पे मैंने बहुत कुछ सीखा environment के बारे में, और ये भी सीखा कि IIT में ज़्यादा काम करवाते हैं कॉर्नेल से. It's really a tough one. But anyway, I came back. I didn't want to stay in the US. I wanted to come back home. Basically क्योंकि मेरे को टिक्की बहुत पसंद है. तो मैं वापस आ गया, और फिर मैंने नर्मदा आंदोलन के साथ 4-5 साल काम किया, जहाँ मैंने एक्चुअली उल्टी तरफ से देखा कि अगर आप एनवायरनमेंट के लिए काम करते हो और वो स्टेट के खिलाफ है, तो स्टेट काफ़ी कुछ कर सकता है आपको. मैं जेल भी गया, मेरे ऊपर अटेम्प्ट टू मर्डर का केस लगाया गया. और ये एक बहुत कॉमन चीज़ है कि जो भी काफ़ी सारे सोशल एक्टिविस्ट के ऊपर केसेस लगते हैं, बिकॉज दैट्स द वे द स्टेट ऑपरेट्स. You learn all this, and you learn about development, and you learn about the pros and cons, and you finally again come back to what I learned way back with Bahuguna ji, कि जब तक आप लोकली काम नहीं करोगे, जब तक आप लोकल लोगों के बारे में भी नहीं सोचोगे, तब तक एनवायरनमेंट को बचाना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. Sorry, long answer.
Small changes along the way, and you've made sustainability a part of your life. And how, like we were discussing earlier, little drops make an ocean, and the way you have actually inculcated those steps and made them a part of your routine, and even in the way you commute now.
हाँ, मैंने actually खास करके I first heard about global climate change in a seminar in Cornell in 1988. And even then they were saying the same things, that as the temperature is rising, there's going to be more variations. You're going to have more bad weather events. Things are going to get more and more unpredictable. And, 30 plus years down the road, everything they said back then is slowly coming true. And क्या होता है कि इतनी बड़ी चीज़ है ना कि एक इंडिविजुअल सोचता है, यार मैं क्या करूँगा इसके बारे में, ये पूरी दुनिया में कार्बन निकल रहा है एटमॉस्फेयर में, मैं कौन हूँ, मैं क्या कर पाऊँगा. पर ऐसा नहीं है एक्चुअली, क्योंकि जैसे मैं फॉर एग्जांपल दिल्ली में मैं मेट्रो इस्तेमाल करता हूँ. आज भी मैं मेट्रो लेके ही शो पे चल के आया हूँ, वापस भी ऐसे मेट्रो लेके जाऊँगा. मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि जितनी कम गाड़ी चलाऊँ, उतना मैं दिल्ली में कर पाऊँ, क्योंकि दिल्ली, मैन, you heard me, my voice is all because the pollution has started. It's pollution season. You know, when I grew up in Delhi, this was the best time of the year. दशहरा, दिवाली आने वाली थी, मौज होता था, हल्का हल्का ठंड लगती थी शाम को, और ये सब होता था. अब क्या है? बच्चों को खांसी हो रही है, उनके नाक बह रहे हैं. So we have, I realize that you can do individual, just consume less. It's not important to buy every new thing. You know, cell phone for example. I don't know how many of us realize कि हम हर साल 40-50 हज़ार रुपए गंवा देते हैं इस चीज पे, जो कि था ही नहीं 20 साल पहले. Suddenly you're sucked into this consumption, because consumption is what makes the economic world go round, but it's not what makes the real world go round. And there is gradually A is not talking to B, or rather A has said कि भाई बहुत हो गया, अब मैं बताती हूँ तेरे को, because I think of Earth as female. I don't, you know, and I think she is telling us कि बॉस ये करना छोड़ दो. तो हम लोग सब कर सकते हैं, छोटी छोटी चीज़ें यार. पानी कम, बिजली कम. जैसे मेरे को याद है, मेरा बाबा मेरे को डांटता था, फैन क्यों ऑन छोड़ा है, लाइट क्यों ऑन छोड़ा है. नाउ आई से द सेम थिंग, you know, to people. And I was at Hyderabad airport 2 days ago. It was so cold. अरे एयरपोर्ट को 15 डिग्री पे रखने की क्या जरूरत है भाई, 25 पे रख दे यार. थोड़ी बहुत गर्मी सह लेंगे हम लोग, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. सो ऐसी ऐसी चीज़ें हम लोग सब कर सकते हैं अपनी ज़िंदगी में. एंड आई थिंक इट सीम्स लाइक नथिंग व्हेन यू डू इट, बट व्हेन 1 billion people do it, it makes a difference. Really, throw out less trash. ब्रेड खरीदने जाते हैं बाजार में, वही प्लास्टिक में आ रहा है, फिर कहते हैं भाई इसको पन्नी में डाल. क्यों भैया, कपड़े का ले जा, take a cloth bag to market. This is what we used to do in my childhood, and we've suddenly forgotten all those things. We think it is not cool. You know, young people think it's not cool to be seen carrying a cloth bag. And maybe it isn't, but make it cool ना यार. कर दो ना यार, क्या है, इतनी कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है. गाड़ी में भी जा रहे हो तो 2-3 क्लॉथ के बैग रख लो. सब्जी खरीदने जा रहे हो, पता चला कि 100 रुपये की सब्जी खरीदी, 5 प्लास्टिक की थैलियों में आ गई. ये सबके साथ होता है. पहले हम लोग एक सब्जी का बास्केट होता था, याद है आपको, उसको लेके जाते थे. अब मैं जब मीट खरीदने जाता हूँ, मैं ना डोलची ले जाता हूँ, क्योंकि मेरे को याद है बचपन में हम लोग डोलची लेके जाते थे, उसमें वो डालता है, मैं ले आता हूँ. ठीक है, यू कैन डू दी स्मॉल थिंग्स, ऑल ऑफ अस कैन डू इट, वी जस्ट डोंट थिंक अबाउट इट बिकॉज इट्स बिकम अ थिंग. लाइक जब मैं अमेरिका में रहता था ना, इतना प्लास्टिक वेस्ट जनरेट होता है. थिंग्स आर रैप्ड इन थिंग्स आर रैप्ड इन थिंग्स आर रैप्ड इन थिंग्स. चम्मच आता है साला प्लास्टिक रैप में यार, पागलपन है. क्यों? क्योंकि पता नहीं, आई डोंट नो व्हाई. सो आई थिंक वी कैन ऑल गेट टुगेदर एंड कंज्यूम लेस, बिकॉज यू नो सरकार इतना ही कर पाएगा. बड़े बड़े ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, और उनकी ज़रूरत है, वो बड़ी बड़ी चीज़ें करेंगे, आप छोटी छोटी चीज़ें करो, मिलके हो सकता है. क्योंकि नहीं तो मेरा कभी कभी लगता है दिल की, यार छोड़ दो, हार गए हम. पर मेरे ना बच्चे हैं, मैं उनको नहीं बोल सकता कि हार गए हम. I cannot. We have to talk about hope. We have to talk about the fact that we can, yes, we can still do something to stop this from getting out of hand and spinning out of control. I think that's what we have to tell ourselves, because we have to do it for our kids, if nothing else. हम तो मैं बताता हूँ यार, हम तो निकल जाएंगे. I was telling Molly, you know, we guys are leaving you guys this terrible world, and you have to deal with it. हमने तो सब कुछ enjoy कर लिया. So I apologize.
The days of mindless consumption are over, and that's the message that you've sent out. And I have to say, where words fail, music speaks a lot, but your words are also as powerful as your music. And thank you so much for actually setting the stage for all of us and sending out that strong message where every step matters. And no matter how insignificant you think your small step is, it goes a long way in preserving our planet, our future for the next generations to come. Thank you very much,
जैसे आपने कहा ना, no action is not an option.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, WION's Mission Sustainability campaign is exactly what we just discussed and what we at WION strongly believe in, that you and I can actually make a difference. Let me not wait anymore. A quick clip will actually narrate the story of the campaign, what it stands for, before we proceed further.
During its G20 presidency, zeal of the global south towards achieving sustainable development. Reaffirming its commitment to the centrality and universality of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, India has kept SDGs at the center of its international cooperation.
That's just a sample of what we've gathered here this evening to talk about hashtag no action, not an option. That in fact just sends out the message of urgency. In fact, we at WION are the only channel, I proudly say, to have a dedicated show that talks about the urgent need for climate action. Climate Tracker is our dedication towards the cause, and that is something that we strongly believe in. And in fact, Mission Sustainability Campaign is a testament to WION's unwavering commitment to a cleaner and greener future. I also have to extend our appreciation to our partners for supporting our campaign, and we look forward to getting on board more like-minded partners who are truly committed towards making their organizations more sustainable. Before I proceed, let me thank Tesla Power USA for co-powering Mission Sustainability with energy partners REC Limited and ONGC, Green Finance partner NABARD, Gourmet Snacking partner Nutki, Clean Energy partner Gale India Limited, and innovation partner Fashion Entrepreneur Fund. And do remember to share your thoughts and opinions, your views on what we will be talking about through the course of the evening, through our sessions, using the hashtag no action, not an option, on all social media platforms. Let me now take the opportunity to invite Madhu Soman, Chief Business Officer, WION and the Business, to set the stage and talk more about the Mission Sustainability Campaign. Madhu, the floor is yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A big welcome and a huge thank you for taking out time to come and be part of our mission, Mission Sustainability. I think there was a VO that was supposed to run with that AV. I think that's a cue for me. The voiceover didn't play. That means that I should leave it to the people who are actually providing solutions to us to do the deed rather than me blabbering away here. So I would quickly step away from the stage because we owe it to the next generation. I have a teenage son, and I do believe that they are being brought up the right way. Cleanliness, how to take care of the planet, not throwing things here and there. They are being brought up the right way. We somehow seem to have missed the bus, but there is still time. And that's exactly where I love here listening to the stories of Kavinder and about, we all talk about EV mobility, that's just 28% of the storage story. And Kavinder will be sharing more about it on stage. There are other stories, like I was listening to Akash Ranison, his book, The Climate Optimist. If nothing else, I'm actually endorsing it on stage. Read the second chapter of The Climate Optimist. After that, if you decide not to do what is required to do right to the planet, it's your conscious choice. Do take a look at Akash Renaissance, the climate optimist. So we have many more such stories to tell. The NABARD chairman is there, the REC chairman is there. They all have wonderful initiatives that will help us make this a better and nobler place than when we came. I think that's a misappropriated Napoleon's quote, but I hope it works. And I leave the stage to all of you to be part of the solution and not add to the problems that this planet faces. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhu, for that. Now, we've all heard a lot about what sustainability stands for and how we can actually make our contributions in that direction. But let's just take a step back and talk about how what we see on paper, the pledges that we see on paper, and the implementation on the ground, there is, let's face it, a gap on that front. And how can we all come together? How can we adopt a multi-pronged approach to actually fight that gap, to fight against climate change, and walk towards a cleaner, greener future? That brings me to our first session of the day. Through the course of the evening, of course, as Madhu pointed out, we will be delving deeper into the various aspects that the word sustainability brings along with it as well. Our first discussion for the evening, ladies and gentlemen, Sustainable Development Goals and their implementation, featuring Vivek Kumar Devangan, Chairman and Managing Director, REC Limited, Dr. Vaibhav Chaturvedi, Fellow Council on Energy, Environment and Water. This session will be moderated by Vikram Chandra, Senior Journalist and Presenter, India Story WION.
I'll just wait for the last mic to get there. There we are. Right. Thank you both so much for being here. And it's a pleasure to be here to discuss something that is obviously becoming of increasingly critical importance. Sustainability is something that once used to be something to talk about. Yes, we should aspire to it. But maybe people used to say, somebody in the future will have to worry about it. There will be a day will come where we will have to really worry about climate action. But now, every single day when you're reading the newspaper, when you put on your TV channels, you can see the impact that is happening. Extreme weather, which we're all experiencing, is a result of climate change. The water crisis that we are seeing is an aspect of what is being discussed out here. So these are issues that we do have to turn our attention to. When we are talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, as we will be right now, many of them are broader questions like poverty and dealing with issues like that, gender disparity. But among the Sustainable Development Goals that are particularly important, which I think the two of you might be able to shed some light on, is the question of energy, and is the question of, can we manage our energy requirements in a more sustainable manner? So thank you both so much for joining us. Mr. Devangan, if I could just start with you. You are the Chairman and Managing Director of REC Limited. And you've done a lot of work on how actually India can manage energy transition. And this is an important question, because if a country like India can make a transition from polluting sources of energy to more renewable energy, it sets the stage for the rest of the world to do it.
Let me share with you that REC is known for its rural electrification work, particularly with regard to universal access of electricity. But now we have changed our business strategy. Now REC would be known for its renewable energy centric efforts.
As you are aware that energy transition efforts are going on, Honorable Prime Minister during Glasgow COP26 had announced that India aspires to install 500 gigawatt capacity of electricity from non-fossil fuel sources. And India also wants to become net zero by the year 2070. With regard to installed capacity of 500 gigawatt, as we are talking today, we already have about 186 gigawatt capacity installed from non-fossil fuel sources in India. In the next 7 years, about 314 gigawatt capacity would be installed from non-fossil fuel sources. Since renewable energy is intermittent in nature, it will also require storage solution, be it pump storage hydro project or battery energy storage or hydrogen fuel cell project. And there are other initiatives, new technology areas like green hydrogen, green ammonia projects are coming up, and there is big push towards electric mobility. So a technical arm of Ministry of Power, that is Central Electricity Authority, has made a projection that about 15 lakh to 20 lakh crore investment would be required to achieve this ambitious target of 500 gigawatt of installed electricity capacity by the year 2030. We in REC have made our business strategy to target about 20% of this business share. Right now, the renewable energy portfolio of REC is about 30,000 crore. We want to increase it by 10 folds in next 7 years. The asset under management for renewable energy portfolio will increase from 30,000 crore to 3 lakh crore in next 7 years. For that, we have made comprehensive strategy. We are targeting not only plain vanilla solar and wind solution, but we are also targeting solar hybrid with wind, solar hybrid with storage, wind hybrid with storage. We are also targeting pump storage hydro projects. We're also targeting battery energy storage. And recently, we had organized Green Finance Summit at Goa in the third week of July on the sideline of G20 Energy Transition Working Group. There we had interacted with power developers, renewable energy developers, technology providers, solar manufacturing providers, electric mobility, OEMs also. We were overwhelmed by the response that we received. We were able to sign MOUs worth 2,86,000 crore after identifying projects from each of these stakeholders. And I'm happy to share with you that after signing this MOU, we have already sanctioned 25,000 crore worth project in last 2 months, in the month of August and September. And in the remaining 6 months of this current financial year, from October to March 2024, we intend to sanction another 1 lakh crore project for renewable energy segment. That's how we are going to give a big push to energy transition related initiative of India.
I'm going to discuss some of those plans with you in more detail, but Dr. Vaibhav Chaturvedi, if I could turn to you, you're fellow at the Council of Energy, Environment and Water. If you look at the entire question around how do we try and save the planet, for a long period of time, it was essentially a tussle between the developed countries, which were actually responsible for most of the problem, and the emerging economies and countries like India and others, which were saying, it's your problem, you've done something, you've really polluted the environment, you need to fix it. There now seems to be a slight change in attitude, as we are hearing out here, where countries like India are saying, even though we weren't historically responsible for what has happened, we will show you the path of how it can be cleaned up. And it sounds as if India is going to be able to meet its Paris target. Do you think that's possible and feasible? And is this a new thought process that is happening?
Yes, indeed. First of all, very good evening, and thank you for inviting me here, and congratulations to WION for this wonderful initiative. I look forward to being a part of it. Coming to this question, I think there are many colleagues from very diverse backgrounds. So I just want to say something very simple. 80% of the climate problem is due to fossil fuels, which means the cars that we are using. So the petrol that we're using in the car, that leads to emissions. The electricity that we're using, if it is produced by coal, that leads to emissions. So a lot of the things that we do essentially based on economic growth, they're all leading to certain, emission negative impacts on the environment. That is the basic, problem that we're talking about. And the biggest challenge is that we want to ensure that in the transition process, our economy is not hit. That is extremely important, right? So India, clearly in the last 10 years, it has done, I think, wonderfully. So as a researcher, as an independent research organization, it's very, very clear to us that India is increasingly taking a leadership position in the global climate discourse. It is setting the narrative, but at the same time, it is doing many things on the ground. If you follow the policy actions the government of India is taking, many states are taking, many relevant ministries are taking, it's very, very clear if you look at solar, if you look at electric mobility, if you look at the industrial sector, whichever sector you choose, the interventions are very, very clear. Industries are much more well positioned for this transition as they were like 10 years back. Clearly, there is a sea of change happening. As Mr. Devangan is also saying, there is a sea of change in the attitude. Also, the whole point about being a climate leader, it's clearly pervading down to many different aspects of the economy. And yes, I'll completely agree with what Mr. Devangan is saying. It is very, very visible to all of us. Yeah.
May I supplement? I would like to highlight the fact that India is one of the few G20 countries which has been able to meet its commitment made in COP21 at Paris in 2015. We had committed that we'll bring down our emission intensity of GDP by about 33 to 35% as compared to 2005 level by the year 2030. We have already achieved this target, and now we have enhanced our ambition to bring down emission intensity of GDP by about 45% by the year 2030.
Right. If I can just look at the broader issue, though, you're mentioning COP, another COP is around the corner. Increasingly, reports are coming saying, well, we are probably going to blow past 1.5. Who knows where it is going to end? And even if India is doing, there are a lot of other countries that are not yet coming anywhere close to meeting Paris. How bad do you think the situation actually is going to be?
Well, yeah, it is going to be worse than where we are sitting today. That is very, very clear. So currently we are sitting at an increase of 1.15 degrees C. So whenever I say increase, it is relative to temperature levels during pre-industrial revolution time. So I'm talking about compared to 1850, where the world is already warmer on an average by 1.15 degrees C. And a lot of things that we are seeing around, and it's very interesting, I think the point you also made, Vikram, so it's 20 years back, this discussion, it was like scientists telling everybody that climate change is happening. People are telling us, well, I mean, I'm not so sure about it, It's completely reversed now. Now people are telling scientists. So I am from the scientific community. I don't need to convince people at all now in this generation. So, which simply means climate impacts are increasing. In the last 20 years, clearly they have increased. And I don't want to say I'm scaremongering, but well, the science says very clearly that the path at which we are on.
You don't need to scaremonger, because when you open the newspapers, you're talking floods in one place, drought in the other, extreme heat waves, forest fires, wildfires happening everywhere. People can now see it around them.
Yes, it's very, very visible to all of us. So to your question, well, yes, next 10 years are definitely going to be worse because we are staring at 1.5 degrees C, crossing that. That is very, very clear. But compared to what could have been, when the emission path at which we were in, let's say, early 2020 years back, we were talking about, like 3.5, 4 degrees rise. Now, clearly, because of a lot of actions by many governments and many different communities, we are thankfully not on that path. Clearly, we are on a lower path. That lower path is also pretty scary. So we are not at 4.5, but we are definitely at 2.5. Our target is 1.5. So of course, it is better than what could have been. So clearly, actions have happened. It is not as good as what we wanted to, happen.
So if it has to be bent further, so I want to return to the issue of what you are doing and others in India are doing, because that could show a path. Now, the changes that you said, and going from 30,000, 10x in a few years, in 7 years, is actually a remarkable achievement to pull off. Is it happening because of policy? Is it happening because of the older technologies, relatively older, like solar and wind and others, and they have become more affordable now because of new technology? Or will it be because of things which are completely new, like green hydrogen?
Yeah, it is mainly due to the policy initiative initiated by Government of India, particularly Ministry of Power and Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. they have provided an enabling ecosystem where the renewable energy developers can sustain, the ease of doing business that India has been advocating is really attracting the investor in India. And moreover, the entire ecosystem is improving. A lot of policy reforms have taken place in the last 3-4 years, which is really given a big push. And recently this green hydrogen mission has also been set up, and India is one of the few countries leading this initiative. A lot of work has already gone, and recently an amendment has been carried out in the Energy Conservation Act, wherein government can mandate consumption of the renewable energy sources. Recently a draft notification has already been circulated by Ministry of Power, wherein this renewable generation obligation has also been mandated. I hope that all these policy initiatives will give a big thrust and will be able to achieve the energy transition related targets which we have envisaged.
Yeah, so let me come on that point. I think the big point I want to make is markets are extremely powerful. Markets are extremely, extremely powerful, but whether markets deliver perverse outcomes or whether they deliver outcomes that we want as a society is for the policy framework to decide. Policy frameworks shape the direction of markets. So it is not either or. Policy has an extremely important role to play, but ultimately what will deliver on the ground is going to be markets.
What happened at G20, the new talk about climate financing, that potentially sets up market dynamic structures in favor of good policies. Do you think enough was done at G20
Well, a lot needs to be done. Clearly enough has not been done. A lot needs to be done on finance. Finance is the biggest impediment right now. See, as I was saying, the direction of climate debate has changed very decisively. It has very clearly changed. So now the debate is not at all whether we want to stop at 1.1. No debate at all. We do want to limit at 1.5. Now the discussion is happening on the nuts and bolts of it. Finance is one of the most important nuts and bolts of it. So that is where the impediment right now is. We are working on many different levers in the system to change this particular scenario. So we recognize it, but yes, that is the biggest impediment. It is not at all solved as of now.
All right. Can I just ask you, if you had to look at the challenges ahead in that ambitious roadmap that you're talking, both here in India, final thoughts from you on what you think the challenges could be?
The main challenge that I foresee is about the cost of financing this climate change related initiative. The climate finance is available, the volume is available, but the cost is quite high. Perhaps a concerted efforts need to bring down the cost of financing for green projects. That is the major challenge.
Okay, cost of financing. Before I allow you to go, I mean, there are other SDGs in addition to just sorting out climate. Which are the other ones where you think some progress is being made? I know you've done a lot of research on water also. Is that the other big area of concern? In some SDGs like poverty, there has obviously been progress. A lot of people have been brought out of poverty. Which are the other areas that you think are really challenging?
I think progress has happened across all the SDGs. It's kind of very, very clear. The question is always that if the target is a 2020 target or 2030 target, has the progress happened as per the pace at which we want it to happen? Now, that is very different for different SDGs. That's very, very clear. Of course, progress has happened. That's also very clear. I deal with climate and energy, especially those three. But let me also say there are SDGs which are related to sustainable consumption. That's a very important part of the climate debate. So climate is a different SDG altogether. But even other SDGs have a very important impact on climate. There is a SDG that is related to sustainable cities. Right? So how we build our cities is going to ensure how we consume our energy. In US, the way people drive, for example, it's a very different ecosystem as compared to, let's say, European cities. How our cities grow and what are the options available for people to travel. Many, many such very small things collectively are going to determine how we progress towards the climate SDGs. So many SDGs are actually interrelated. In fact, poverty is the most important thing. Climate, most vulnerable communities are going to be impacted by climate in a much more negative way. So there are many, many interrelationships across the SDGs.
All right, let me sneak in one last question on you on other SDGs. And I'm sure as you're looking at the renewable future, there are other side benefits to that. We're having this in Delhi. We all got that sense of dread. It's halfway through October, so any minute now, we'll have to start holding our breath and hold our breath for another 4 months till we can breathe again because of the pollution.
A lot of concerted efforts have gone to improve this, particularly this environment of NCR region. Government has already formed a national commission to look into this aspect. And I have seen that the neighboring states like Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh have already stepped up their efforts to reduce the pollution in the coming winter. I hope that if all the stakeholders take concerted effort, we'll be able to control pollution in NCR region.
Thank you both so much for joining us, and let's hope those ambitious targets that you set out can actually be achieved. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to toss it back to Molly.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for sharing those insights. And that is just a precursor for what we will be discussing over the next few sessions that we have lined up for you. Just a reminder here, hashtag no action, not an option. That is the mantra for this evening, and feel free to share your views and your thoughts through the course of the evening using that same hashtag. And that brings me to those who have actually been crusading this fight against climate change. We've talked about the many ways in which we can actually make a difference, but let's talk about the sustainability champions who have actually been spearheading this movement to ensure a cleaner, greener future for all of us. Great pleasure in inviting now on stage Shaji Kievi, Chairman, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD.
Good evening to all of you, and thank you, WION, for giving us this opportunity. I'll not take much of time. I'll be taking roughly around 10 minutes. I'll take some leaf out of what has been discussed now, and also the Indian Ocean Band. If I understood Hindi correctly, they talked about Pani Khara hai, and then Riva, Ma Riva, and also they talked about Kerala. So I'll be telling around 4 stories around these things. First of all, as an introduction to NABARD, many of you may be knowing, those who are in the investing side. In fact, I was talking to Mr. Vikram Chandra. He was telling that he was a great fan of NABARD bonds because that offered a lot of income tax benefits. But then we are now fresh out of another type of bond, which was the first of its kind in India. There was a discussion about the financing options. There is a cost of capital which was discussed earlier. So we are in the business of raising funds for our sustainability related activities, and we are just fresh out of social bond, the first ever social bond by a triple-rated company in India. We have just listed last week, and we were going for a 3,000 crore of option for that, and we got fairly good response to that. Almost it was subscribed 4 times, and we actually got around 1,000 crores as firm commitment, which we accepted at the rate which we were okay with that. And that showed us that there is a lot of commitment from the investing community also for that. So we are talking about mission sustainability. In fact, the sustainability was already a mission for us when we were formed in 1982. That time, not much talk about sustainability was there, but then we had no option other than to take action, because there is the tagline is that no action, not an option. But then for us, action was only the option, because we're in the business of bridging the rural area with the urban areas. So you all know India is growing faster, and then many sections of the society are not growing in the same pace. So we want to bridge that. We want to take the fruits of growth to the remotest of the villages, and that exactly is what our mission is. And as a part of that, a lot of activities we do, and many of these activities will qualify for what we call now as sustainability or green or whatever cliched words which we use. So these are all known to us: people, planet, and profit. Yes, we need sustainable income from whatever we do. So all these 3 things we combine together. Inclusive growth is one of our major thing, because inclusion, if without inclusion, sustainability can't be there. And also, as a part of that inclusion, financial inclusion, that is what, even before the term financial inclusion was coined, we were in the business of making people access finance in the way, in the manner in which they need, and also at the cost which is okay for them. And then in the terms of planet, of course, climate is the word now, but then we recognize this as a priority way back in 1995 itself. And of course, for all these things, we need to have profits. So now, I will not dwell deep into that. I told that I'll tell about four stories rather. And first story, of course, is from Tribal Development Fund, which we have, and that is from Chhattisgarh, Koba, Chhattisgarh. So here, what we try to do is that we work with tribals, we work with the nature there. We don't take inputs from outside. Whatever activities are there, whatever inputs are there within that area, we'll make use of that, and we'll help tribals to come together to help themselves for improving their livelihoods. And then now what we have is that in the Korba, Chhattisgarh, around 2 lakh per annum. For us, it may be a small amount. For them, it's in fact a big amount. And then, see, because of that, we have touched lives of around 6 lakh people. And this we replicated in a lot of areas. You can see that 29 states and UTs, 5.71 lakh acres of area is covered under that, all in tribal areas. And then the grants, we give grants, we don't finance. Actually, even though we are a bank, we are the largest development finance bank. Development finance, because finance comes later, but then we have to develop the area so that people and the livelihoods over there will be able to access regular finance from the commercial banks. So we make people ready for that, and this is what we did. This is one story which we have. The next story is from Riva, that is Chindwara watershed development. So you're telling about the Ma Riva. So here, Batri village in Chindwara. So watershed, of course, Pani Khara hai, but, that's what they told. But then we try to harvest the water and then develop that area into more fertile areas, and then we reduce the dependence on pesticides and also the fertilizers and such other things. So now, on a sustainable way, we try to develop that with the watershed development committees formed within the area. So people will come together and form committees and help themselves. And we do the capacity building. And then once they reach a certain level of activity, we will link them to the regular banks. And banks will come in. We have a banking plan for that. Because for development, we believe that development should come through credit. And that credit come later, because then financial institutions should be having confidence to lend. Otherwise, of course, you know about the non-performing asset problems and such other things. So we make these people credit worthy. So now, all along, if you see that, so it has impacted around 30% increase in groundwater recharge, 29% increase in crop productivity, increase in area under cultivation, roughly around 26 to 35%. These are all not we are telling. Then a lot of our impact evaluation studies have been conducted, including from the Indian Institute of Management, and then they have come out with the studies. If you can search the Google and you Google it and see that whatever reports are there available on the NABARD's activity. So now we are also mapping all these activities in our portal and geotagging that, so it is open for verification. It's a web-based GIS platform, so you can go to the Bhuvan portal and you can see where all we have touched lives. So now, natural resources management is another area which under the umbrella program of NRM, we have watershed development, tribal development, and many other activities. So now, livelihood collectivization activity, this is one aspect of sustainability, because individually they may not be able to fend for themselves, but as a collective organization, we can make them more meet the goals of sustainability. The farmer producer organizations. Now we are talking about 10,000 farmers, the farmer producer organization to be formed, but we were the primers to that. We started this farmer producer organizations as a pilot project. So this is one activity which we have done in Bihar. So as a result of that, the farmers you know about the fragmentation which is happening. Because of that, they are not able to produce enough surpluses for improving their livelihood. Only for consumption they have to produce. But now we are making them produce marketable surpluses and improving their livelihood. Last, the climate thing, the Kerala aspect. So now before that, I'll tell about some 3 funds. We are the implementing agency of National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, where we handle the India's climate change fund, and then we are the adaptation fund partner for climate smart agriculture, and also we are the green climate fund partner for the UNFCCC, that is United Nations Fund for Climate Change. So these activities, we source grant from outside and do climate smart activities within India. So here, one such thing is from Kerala, the shrimp cultivation, the brackish water, saline water, we make it more cultivable, more productive, and as a result of that, their income, the paddy production itself has increased from, almost made it 4 times, 4x it has become from 0.5 ton per hectare to 2 tons per hectare, and from shrimp production, because there's a paddy shrimp combination which we have done, as a result of that, per area productivity and per area income has increased. So now, to top it all, we need funds for that. I said about social impact bond which we have issued. Now we'll be coming up with the green bonds as well. So that will open up a different class of investors for such activities. If you see the asset side of our balance sheet, we are a 8 trillion Indian rupees strong balance sheet we have. On the asset side, each of the assets will qualify for either green or sustainability. So now what we are trying to do is to package that for the investors, and it is up to all of you to look at that, and we may even come out. We are actually working with the government to come out with some incentives for the investors to invest in such bonds, maybe a tax incentive or a coupon incentive, something like that. We are working on that because we are looking at international experiences, and we are trying to structure these fundraising aspects as well. So to end with, it's all a small step. We don't have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in change. I have told about small interventions, but then these small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start with the next discussion. And my name is Shivan Chandna, okay, in case anybody needs to know that first. But the special discussion is on new age solutions for sustainability and sustainable development. And of course, when we talk about new age solutions, we're of course talking about technology. We're of course talking about apps. We're of course talking about things that each one of us can do at our own levels, given the way technology has spread over the years and the kind of access we have to it. What can we do, and how easily can we do it, and how technology helps in achieving sustainability goals, and of course in tackling climate change as well. For that, we have with us Shipra Davar, who's the founder and CEO of iWill. I'll request you, ma'am, please come on stage. Rosita Singh, Head of Solutions Mapping, Accelerator Lab at UNDP in India. And to moderate the discussion, I'll call my friend and colleague Molly Gambhir, who's a senior anchor with WION. Ladies, please take it away, and hope we get more and more inputs from you.
Thank you, Shivan, for that. And Shipra and Rosita, we have, in fact, talked a lot about the problems that we are dealing with. Let's come to talking about the solutions. And why just solutions? New age solutions. And that is the theme for this discussion. No pressure. When we talk about solutions, of course, it's a loaded responsibility. It's a heavy responsibility to actually talk about ways in which we can preserve our planet and also undo some of the damage that has been caused. I want to be cautiously optimistic here, because there is so much that we as humans have actually, in a way, caused, in a way, also our generations to come will look back and look at this as not a great period for our planet. But let's just talk about the ways in which technology can actually play a crucial role in spreading awareness. And the apps that all of us actually have on our phones and use on a daily basis can actually go a long way in spreading awareness. Shipra, why don't you begin by talking about that?
Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting innovators to this platform as well, because that is important. So, Mission Life started under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the idea was to invite how can we leverage modern day technology to really make change in our consumption patterns and how we live today, and not really see technology as the problem. It is the way we use technology, probably that is the problem. So our idea was one among the top 6 from the global top 75, which was really on how we could use something as simple as an AI model, which can basically be trained on in understanding the peak consumption patterns of electricity demand, what is coming from carbonized sources of fuels, which is like what is the time when coal is powering the electricity that we have, and what is the time when we are using solar and wind and other sources, and really bring that information through an app to the consumer, to the Gen Z, to the Gen X, to the Gen Y. And let me tell you, I'm so fortunate. I've worked with a lot of Gen Zs, and I know that they're very conscious when it comes to climate. So just let them know that, hey, you know, maybe charging your phone in the morning makes maximum sense, because the source of power at the time that you're getting is from a decarbonized, you know, renewable source. So AI coupled with behavioral change technologies, like, you know, our friend from Indian Ocean was saying that when 1 billion people make change, you cannot understand the power that that unleashes in terms of, you know, the carbon footprint that we will be able to reduce. So by this, if you look at the wastage, you know, $680 billion are being wasted financially as well, just because of waste electricity consumption. And that can be cut by 14% by adoption of such tools. And there is technology available. We are people who use apps. We use that for Instagram. We use that for posting pretty pictures. Why not post ourselves showing, hey, this is how much impact I've made in terms of, you know, reducing the carbon footprint through my actions. And, you know, even the apps could translate that into how much that means in terms of planting a tree, say, you know, the impact that you've had in a year's time with your change in consumption patterns. So innovation can go a long way, and it can really impact billions, and that's the beauty of it.
Indeed, and just looking at the power that this gadget in our hands can actually have, and go a long way in sending out a strong message and doing our small bit in this way of a gift that we can probably give to our next generations. Rosita, I also want to delve deeper now into the various aspects that come along with the fight against climate change, and speaking specifically about the role of technology in tackling air pollution. Let's face it, countries around the world, cities around the world now have been labeled as some of the most polluted. And that's something that should serve as a wake-up call. And we feel it day in and day out. When we go to a hill station, we can feel the air to be a lot cleaner. And that's something that should make all of us realize the kind of harm that's been caused. But like I said, I want to be optimistic here and talk about how we can actually fight that. So tell us more about the ways in which you have also been playing a huge role in tackling air pollution.
Thanks, Molly, and thanks for hosting such a wonderful and much-needed forum. So talking about the elephant in the room in Delhi at this time of the season, which is air pollution, mentioned a couple of times already. So at UNDP, you know, we have been innovating through a global network of, say, 91 labs spread across 115 countries. It's called the Global Accelerator Lab Network. And we are not only looking at the new age solutions, but also looking at, you know, how we can bring in new data, new insights and tools into the public sector innovation space also. So in India, definitely we have been looking at air pollution, and picture this, you know, there are 140,000 brick manufacturing industry units in the country. We produce 250 billion bricks in a year. And this sector alone consumes 35 to 40 million tons of coal, which causes emissions but also contributes to air pollution. So we found a very interesting solution because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, we want to partner with existing solutions, which came from Nottingham University in UK, and they had mapped the location of, say, 47,000 brick kilns across the Indo-Gangetic plains of India. And what we then did is that we adopted that innovation, made it into a actionable, data-driven insight platform for the regulators. So for instance, if you zoom in there at Bihar, so we're working with the State Pollution Control Board in Bihar, and they're able to now see very clearly that these are the locations of 7,800 brick kilns in my state, and if I have to act on the non-compliant ones, they get a prioritized list of 1,800 specific brick manufacturing industry units, which helps them to go faster. So technology in this case is helping the regulators to go faster. And I think just picking up from what Chipra was also saying, there is a way to include citizens as well. So we are now exploring how citizen scientists can become like volunteers. Young people can join us with low-cost, IoT-based sensors to kind of measure air pollution, and it's called hyperlocal mapping. So we are planning to roll this in Gurgaon and Patna with the help of young innovators, youth, volunteers who want to do this, and all this will then provide the insight to the policymaker.
Right, and let's just also look at the ways in which we have a lot of commitments that we see coming in from various stakeholders, which sound great on paper, but on the ground there is a huge gap when it comes to their implementation. How, according to you, Shipra, and through the work that you've been doing, do you see policy intervention actually making a difference?
I think policy is the key to everyone, and I think India has got that right, let me tell you. I mean, I'm very, very optimistic about our future. I think the way to really capitalize on the talent that we have and the right policy framework that we've set in is to allow seeding the right kind of innovations. Because we don't have a drought of ideas and we don't have a drought of innovators. What we really have a drought in terms of what wasn't happening is just seeding them with the right financing. Now they could be dealing with plethora of things, It could be water management, it could be sustainable fashion, it could be just an eco-rating app that just tells you before you're buying something that whether it is sustainable or not, or how it has been built. To kind of support those innovations, and then the policy should enable its testing and scaling. And then what needs to be done, and I think our generation really understands it, that we believe in free innovation economy, which really means that we've operated in free market economy. Free innovation economy means that we open our knowledge up and we allow others to build on it, because see, what is relevant for one particular geography in India may not be relevant for another geography in India. Forget, whether it works in US or not. So allowing open source networks to be working on it and then kind of having this collaborative effort, that is what is needed. And I think under the leadership of our current Prime Minister, with the LIFE, I've seen, and as an innovator, I got so much of opportunity to really be able to do things that I wanted to do. So that needs to be done, and imagine we are 1.4 billion people, and talent that is just through the roof, buzzing to make action. We need funds, we need testing areas for them so that they can test their innovation, but then we need to be a little not clumsy about holding patents and information into it, making those open so that more can be built on it. We still will be capitalistic, I can assure you that innovation only builds on more innovation.
And there are so many hurdles that also need to be encountered, need to be fought against along the way. And Rosita, tell us more about the way in which these struggles have actually been fought against by the work that you've been doing.
Definitely. I think open source innovation is something that is coming up increasingly. We have also been focusing on it. In fact, we just heard from, Honorable Chairman of NABARD, and UNDP has actually partnered with NABARD now to work on a major platform which is built in an open source way. So that prototype is now being handed over to NABARD. And that prototype was built with the help of, say, hundreds of volunteering data scientists who were feeding information into it in the gig economy, you know, through GitHub, using various AI tools. And through this, India basically led the development of the world's first digital public good on climate resilient agriculture. So this really started from scratch as a very small experiment, you know, with few team members, and now this has reached that global scale as well. And the idea is now that really looking at, you know, how climate change impacts our farmers. We heard from NABARD about the impacts as well and what they're doing. And we now know that climate change will, say, even reduce the incomes of small and marginal farmers because of the adverse impacts. And this whole platform called DICRA, Data for Climate Resilient Agriculture, basically tries to address this. So all these, you know, using open innovation, all these innovators came together, data scientists, and they've now studied, you know, put parameters to understand, say, crop stress. What would be the impact of the crop, say, in this timeline, 2030 timeline, 2040 timeline, in the future? But then how can we future-proof? And at the same time, I want to mention that while we are talking a lot about data and technology, it cannot be disconnected from people. So there is something called positive deviance, where you can actually even learn from what is going right. So those green spots among the red spots that we see on these heat maps tells us that there are farmers innovating there with some traditional indigenous practices that we can learn from. So it was very interesting that this was like a high-tech platform, but at the same time we were able to see grassroots level practices, like, you know, basic things like dry leaf and green leaf mulching that they were practicing, pitcher irrigation systems, raising embankments to do flood proofing, simple things like using drum seeders to put seeds, you know, in the soil in a cost-effective, energy-effective way. So we learned a lot from it, and now we hope to actually grow this platform with NABARD.
And talking about grassroots practices, the fight against climate change is also a lot about a shift in the mindset, you know, realizing that time is running out. There is need for urgent action, and there is no time better than today, or maybe even yesterday, as people say, to actually start making small steps towards actually bringing out that difference on the ground. So tell us more about the ways in which you feel that shift in the mindset can actually happen, because that is, I feel, one of the major hurdles on this path.
I think when it comes to mindset to sustainability, India has that ingrained in it. Like, I remember a Sanskrit proverb which says, Shashvatam Prakriti, Manav Sangatam, Sangatam Khalu, Shashvatam, which really means that we are one with the nature, and air, water, soil, and the 5 elements make us, and we in turn make them. I come from the field of behavior change, so I can tell you that when we are just reminded with the nudges of how our actions actually impact the larger system that we are using, you know, and we could use that sustainably, there is this ingrained thought within us, the reverence that we were talking about earlier for the Mother Riva, you know, Mother Ganga. I think that reverence, that idea that we owe what we are to the planet that we have been blessed with. Like, imagine so many solar systems out there, so many planets within our solar system, and it's only Mother Earth that gives us the chance to speak. So it's, you know, and I really believe in the vision of us becoming interplanetary, but I really believe that, you know, जैसे हमारे माँ बाप पहले बोलते थे कि एक घर बना के उसको बना के और आगे बनाओ. So we need to really preserve Earth. And behavior change can come just by simple nudges. And I think that's where coupling behavior change modification strategies with technology and the reverence for what we've been blessed with together can make all the difference.
I love that optimism, and you know, unfortunately, we've seen the impact of climate change making its presence felt increasingly over the years. We've seen those disaster headlines that follow us just about every day from every part of the world, increasingly so. Before I wrap quickly, Rosita, I want you to share your thoughts on that, the shifting of the mindset, how that's important. You have been a composting evangelist. You also recently were on a mission to Antarctica. Tell us more about what you saw and how those images actually remind us about the impact of climate change.
Definitely, Molly. I think I really believe in what, really role modeling the change. So I think that behavioral change also happens when we see more of it, when we have, cool campaigns around it. This is the beginning as well. I think Rahul ji from Indian Ocean said very wise words on, what we can do at an individual level. And for me, someone who's been working on sustainability, I did get an opportunity to take part in this climate change expedition last year to Antarctica. And I can't tell you how, it was really it really moved me, even for someone like me who has been practicing sustainability, just to see in front of your eyes such a fragile ecosystem like Antarctica getting impacted, the wildlife there getting impacted. I mean, sea ice concentration was the lowest last year. Their food web is getting impacted. There is microplastic everywhere, right? So that really hits you hard. And then you come back with that, increased urgency that this is not an option indeed. And I think small steps do matter. We sometimes undermine it. So even practicing composting, practicing circular economy practices, going back to the basics, not giving up on, your comfort. I think many people believe that if you become sustainable, you are leaving the luxuries of the world, or, it's not a comfortable lifestyle. That is not true. It is an alternate lifestyle. It is the choices we make as a consumer when we step out. I always say this, our shopping bag can change the world. What we choose to buy, or rather what we don't choose, that no, we will not buy this, sends out a strong message to the industry to really innovate in their practices, to maybe come up with better alternate materials than single-use plastics. So I think that voice of consumer is important. It will always be. It's just that we need reminders, and we need to make this a mass movement.
Indeed. And I would love to go on, but we're completely out of time, just like we are, unfortunately, running out of time to actually fight against climate change. And how I think the minute we stop treating it like a distant threat, we will realize that this is something that impacts each one of us and our generations to come. And thank you very much for sharing those optimistic notes as well, Shipra and Rosita. Pleasure to have you, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Next, as we delve deeper into, like we said, the various facets that come with the fight against climate change, joining us for a very special conversation is Kavinder Khurana, Managing Director, Tesla Power USA, in conversation with Ashish Jha, Editor, Mobility WION, to talk about sustainable power solutions, reduce, recycle, reuse. That is the mantra that we are talking about in our next session.
Hello, good evening, and thank you very much for being here. I first want to go back to what Rahul Saab was saying. He sang a song, Bande, and he said that he can kind of mold it in a way that will make you feel that it is very attached to the theme of this evening. And he definitely managed that. I think that deserves a round of applause as well. Especially on this panel, this one is going to be a little different from the previous panels that you've heard, or the previous guests who came here. This is going to be a little bit more technical, or at least it belongs to a very technical field, and it deals with chemistries. But Kavinder and I are going to try and not make it very boring. We'll try and keep it a little bit more entertaining, and we'll kind of make it as fluid as we can. I would like to borrow one phrase that Rosita just said, elephant in the room. Kavinder, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. The brand that he represents is not what you all think it is. It's not Elon Musk, and it's not that Tesla. So, Kavinder, elaborate on that, expand, and just give us a little bit of more detail about what Tesla Power USA is all about.
Thank you, Ashish, for the question. And hello, everybody. Good evening. I have very high regard and respect for Mr. Elon Musk. He is indeed the genius. Obviously, he is the richest person also, but he is indeed a genius. He kept the name Tesla for his car company to give tribute to a superhuman, if I may call, Nikolai Tesla, who had more than 100 patents of inventions. Similar to car, he also was working on increasing the life of lead-acid batteries at his time. So our promoters, our principals in USA, when they invented this technology, which can prolong the life of lead-acid batteries, they decided to keep this name as a tribute to Mr. Tesla. So there are more than 350 companies in USA by the name of Tesla, by the way. So it's a tribute to Mr. Tesla. That is the reason we are also keeping the same name. Yeah, that is the answer to your question.
Right, and you mentioned lead acid, and I don't know how many of you studied science very well. I certainly did not, but I still am aware of this term. But lead acid is considered to be an archaic technology, especially when we have lithium ion going around and the entire movement around electric mobility being as big as it is becoming now. But again, we were also discussing this, that the segmentation is very skewed towards lead acid even now, about 78%. But not a lot of people know about what goes behind and how exactly is the lead acid battery segment contributing to the overall circularity of this industry. Would you want to elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. So lead-acid batteries we have been using on this planet for more than 80 years now, and it still contributes to more than 80% usage worldwide. Lithium ion is an invention which is rapidly growing in use in e-mobility. Since lithium ion is a lightweight battery, it is ideal for e-mobility, and it can be charged very fast as well, which is not the case with the lead-acid batteries. Now, let me answer your question in two parts. One is the e-mobility part, that what are we doing in e-mobility? So we have target of opening about 5,000 centers called Tesla Power Shops, which will become the points of sale, service, and charging for EVs in India. We have already opened 300 plus Tesla Power Shops, which are operational. And this year, we have the plans to finally open 1,000 at least by the end of this financial year. So EVs, yes, lithium ion is adapted, and there are more technologies coming like sodium ion, hydrogen cells that you are talking about. So e-mobility. While we are advancing towards e-mobility, still we are dependent on IC engines, internal combustible engines, as we know, petrol and diesel cars. So when we think of battery, lead-acid battery, immediately it strikes to mind that, okay, it is automotive. But we sell about 70,000 crore worth of lead-acid batteries in India every year. Only 28% of them are automotive. The remaining 72% is other applications like UPS, inverter, solar, industrial, telecom, power sector. So we are not even aware, because we as consumers, we do not see those batteries. So this huge consumption of batteries which is happening in India, we have, as I told you in my previous answer, that our principal company invented this technology to prolong life. So we have this technology which can extend the life of a lead-acid battery up to 6 years, whereas the lead-acid battery normally works for 3 years. And after recycling every 3 years, there's a lot of pollution which happens, hazardous pollution. If you throw acid on any ground, it will become infertile for the next 5 years. And it will also add to the water table and contaminate the entire water table. Lead is the heaviest metal on earth. If you throw lead on earth, it will go and sink deeper into the earth much faster than any other metal. Again, it is going to pollute. So if the battery life of lead-acid battery can increase, the pollution will reduce drastically. So that is the intent, and our invention or our endeavor is to prolong the lead-acid battery life for its use.
Right, you bring up a very interesting point, and this is something that kind of ties in very organically into another business unit, or probably a vertical that you're also going to start, that is of Restore. That is a brand that is, I believe, going to launch very soon. It's also going to kind of expand on the reusability of lead-acid batteries. Any words on that?
Yeah. So lead-acid batteries die because of sulfation on the lead plates. Our technology desulfates the battery completely, and it starts working like a new battery again. And we have done this already in India. Since 2014, when we started working on this technology and this concept, we have revived more than 500,000, 5 lakh batteries in India. And some batteries have, lead-acid batteries have worked for 6-7 years, where the average life is 3 years. So this technology needs to be populated, and we have devised a hyper-local strategy to reuse the batteries which have already been used. So we have these Tesla power shops. They are equipped with the technology and the machinery required to revive the old batteries. We are going to launch a brand of refurbished batteries very soon called Restore. So everybody is aware of our consumption of second-hand cars and used mobile phones and used laptops. But in batteries, nobody has initiated it because the technology is not that widespread. So all these Tesla power shops, which we are aiming to open, will be equipped with this technology. And see, the beauty of thing is that it is being recycled locally or revived locally. Any old battery of any brand which has been used and is being given back by the user to a dealer, so our shops will buy those batteries, revive them, repackage them as Restore, and sell it back to the consumer with 1-year warranty. So that, I believe, is a great initiative at extending the life of a used battery, contributing not only to the economy in large, but also to the environment.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to come to that because a lot of you might be thinking that how is this entire usability?
आतंकी संगठन हमास के हमलों की बर्बरता के कई उदाहरण जो बाइडेन को बताए। इस फोन कॉल पर बेंजामिन नेतन्याहू ने अमेरिका के राष्ट्रपति
it just becomes a little bit more sustainable other than, of course, going to the market, buying a completely new set of batteries, because that's a completely new set of chemicals and everything applied to create a new battery. So over here, again, we're looking at basically reusability, but also tying in very, very seamlessly with the sustainability. But Kavinder, that's about reusability. What about recyclability? Of course, there is a lot of debate going on because as we grow the EV market or the electric mobility market, lithium-ion recyclability is, of course, becoming a big question. But what about lead acid? Because as you said, the market scope and the existing opportunity is extremely, extremely big.
So in e-mobility, probably lead acid cannot be the answer because of its heavy weight and slow charging method. Lithium-ion batteries are, there's a lot of research going on, Ashish, for recycling lithium-ion batteries, because as the usage is increasing, if we do not recycle them, they will become the landfill, part of the landfill, which is very hazardous to our planet. But at the same time, I believe that there are other technologies, research in motion, not BlackBerry. Research in motion means these new technologies like sodium ion, hydrogen cells, aluminium ion. So all these technologies are under trials. So who knows which technology becomes more acceptable in e-mobility? So it is very early and premature to say that lithium ion is there to stay in e-mobility forever, and it will replace all other options of chemistries. But I believe that lithium ion recharging, I think it is in research and it will also come. The moment it happens, we'll adopt that as well. By the way, we sell lithium-ion batteries as well.
But more to the question about lead acid, we know that it's 100% reusable as well. So can you break that down for us? A lot of us, of course, are not as well-versed with the entire process, but it just gives a little deeper sense of sustainability, of going forward and not really creating additional emissions if you break it down and utilize the 100% recyclable opportunity for lead acid.
So reduce, reuse, and recycle, everybody is talking about. Unfortunately, in batteries, I can't use the word reduce. As the planet evolves and we evolve, our energy needs will evolve. With energy needs, batteries will increase in number, they will not reduce in numbers. But if we can stick to the technologies which we can recycle completely 100%, I think that will make perfect sense for sustainable environment and sustainable energy solutions. So I think what we are trying to do, so I heard the previous discussion also. Everybody, every individual can make a difference. As a company, the difference that we are trying to make is that we are focused on reviving and extending the life of lead-acid batteries. We are also focused on trying to do it hyper-locally in each town and village. People aware of this technology using platforms like yours and other platforms. And once it is adapted, I think it is going to be a huge, cost saving for the Indian economy, or rather world economy. And it is going to create a huge impact on the hazardous pollution, because other pollutions, you may feel them, they are not directly impacting you. But this hazardous pollution caused by wrong or unaudited recycling of lead-acid batteries is very, very hazardous, believe me.
लेबनान में हालात ये है कि आम लोग ये इलाका छोड़कर भाग रहे हैं.
I basically meant. You mentioned massive hazardous impact on the entire ecosystem, and when we talk about batteries, there is a lot of pollution that is emitted into the water systems as well, and the entire water table gets disturbed. When it comes to the manufacturing processes or just marking yourself in that space of sustainability, from the company's perspective, what exactly are you guys doing to contain that and be as responsible as possible?
See, a known devil is better than an unknown devil. So we have known lead-acid battery for 80 years or plus. They are fully recyclable. And we have invented technology to prolong their life. Now, using this technology or using this chemical, if we can add it to a battery, which is a lead-acid battery, which is 1/3 of the cost of a lithium-ion battery, and can live as long as a lithium-ion battery for 6 years or 7 years, I think we are winners. We all are winners then. So that is what we are doing. We are using our proprietary chemical, which is added to the lead oxide while making lead-acid batteries. Therefore, the life of our batteries that we have launched recently in our brand in India have the highest warranty or the longest warranty. You'll be surprised to know that the warranty which comes in lithium-ion batteries is 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. We are the first company launching a lead-acid battery in India in solar application with a replacement warranty of 10 years. And the cost of that battery is 1/3 the cost of a lithium-ion battery of the similar capacity. So if we are doing this, I think this is the initiative towards sustainability that we are doing. So I keep, rhetorically speaking about it. Sustainable technology for sustainable employment. A lot of people are going to get employment if this technology gets widespread. For sustainable environment.
What a catchphrase that. Anyway, we are marching towards the concluding part of this discussion, and I must point out that all of us are users of a SaaS product, software as a service, but there is also a term called PaaS, which is power as a service. And this is an industry that you represent. So could you expand on how exactly are you leveraging the PaaS framework to be a little bit more
So this is an interesting one. I think being installed because of this prohibitive cost in India. So our company announced last year that we are introducing a model that we have introduced, power as a service, wherein we are giving batteries on leasing model to corporates or bulk user of batteries so that they are not prevented from installing these batteries. But as you are aware, to bring in a change, there's a lot of inertia. So people have to adapt this power as a service. We are trying to make people aware about the advantages of it. We, in fact, will take care of the entire life cycle of the batteries in this. Not only installation, maintenance, their disposal, their recycling, revival, everything is on us. And the consumer just has to pay a fixed lease rent per month to use these batteries, and they come with a lifetime warranty, because whenever they are dying, we are going to change them.
Right, that's a great moment to now wrap the session. We have heard about the circularity, we have heard about how batteries can also be sustainable, and lead acid still has a long, long way to go. It's a huge market. There's a great potential. And while lithium-ion, of course, is catching up in the electric mobility space, the world is right now heavily dependent on lead acid as well. And while this is a very technical space, we all use it. And knowingly or unknowingly, we are customers of it, and we will continue to be customers of it. We just need to realize that we are all attached to the sustainability movement despite of using these things as well. Kavinder, thank you very much for this discussion. And
Thank you, Ashish.
all the best to everyone who is going to follow. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you, gentlemen, for those insights. We have a lot more coming your way. And just a reminder here, do keep sharing your views, your thoughts on social media platforms with our mantra, no action, not an option. Now, we have a lot of sustainability warriors amongst us here this evening, and I have this absolute pleasure to invite one of them up on stage. In fact, that is just an understatement to define him. He's someone who has dedicated his life to planting trees and building a sustainable future, so much so that he is now called People Baba. You've all heard about him. None other than Swami Prem Parivartan. In fact, he is the founder, trustee of Give Me Trees Trust, which is the largest tree plantation and conservation community in India, having planted millions of trees, over 23 million trees. And that is just a sample of what he has done to actually contribute towards a cleaner, greener future, something that WION's Mission Sustainability campaign truly stands for. In conversation with my colleague Shivan Channa, requesting People Baba to please come up on stage and grace the occasion.
Pleasure to have you here, sir. So just before we got on stage, I was having a chat with him कि सब आपको पीपल बाबा बोलूं, मैं आपको स्वामी परिवर्तन बोलूं, प्रेम परिवर्तन बोलूं, तो उन्होंने बोला पीपल बाबा ही बोलो, लोग उसी से ही पहचानते हैं. So that has to be my first question. Who gave you this name?
Thank you so much. क्योंकि ऐसे फोरम्स में आने का मौका कम मिलता है. हम लोग फील्ड पे ज़्यादा रहते हैं, कंट्री साइड में ज़्यादा रहते हैं, जंगलों में ज़्यादा रहते हैं. बड़े लिखे लोगों के बीच आना ज़रा थोड़ा कम होता है. Anyway, पीपल बाबा जो था वो एक्चुअली हम अपने पीपल महाराज जो हैं, जो हमारा पीपल का वृक्ष है, उसको हम पीपल बाबा कहा करते थे.
Actually, people वृक्ष भी and also people, if you hear it as English, it both ways it makes sense.
PEOPLE हो जाता है, लेकिन ये हम पीपल वृक्ष की बात कर रहे हैं. तो जब हमने 11 साल की उम्र में वृक्ष लगाने शुरू किए, तो एक चीज़ समझ आई कि पीपल एक ऐसा स्पीसीज़ है, फाइकस रिलीजियोसा जिसको हम बोलते हैं, जो दुनिया में बहुत 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 कम लोग लगाते हैं. फिर गवर्नमेंट के ऑर्डर्स भी थे कि पीपल और बड़ को सड़कों पे ना लगाया जाए क्योंकि प्रॉपर्टी खराब होती है, पेवमेंट खराब होते हैं,
पीपल का पेड़ कहीं भी उग जाए,
कंस्ट्रक्शन में प्रॉब्लम्स होंगी. देयरफॉर हमारी नानी ने हमको ये समझाया, दिस वाज इन 1977, कि वो वृक्ष लगाओ जो दुनिया नहीं लगाती. और लोगों का डर भी था, भूतिया वृक्ष है, इस पे यक्ष बैठते हैं, इसमें चुड़ैलें होती हैं, इसमें ये है, तो ऑल काइंड्स ऑफ थिंग. सो कटिंग द होल स्टोरी शॉर्ट, इट्स बेसिकली जब हमने पीपल लगाना शुरू किया, 1,27,00,000 हम लोगों ने पीपल लगाए हैं अपने पूरे जीवन में. तो 1984 के लगभग राजस्थान में एक जगह हम पंचायत में कुछ काम कर रहे थे, और क्योंकि हम लोगों ने डेजर्ट एरियाज, सेमी डेजर्ट एरियाज़ में बहुत काम किया, तो वहाँ पर एड्रेस किया गया कि पीपल बाबा जो हैं वो ऐसा करेंगे. वो एक्चुअली क्या था कि इट वाज मोर ऑफ अ टीजिंग पार्ट ऑफ इट, कि आप पीपल लगाते हैं और थोड़ा सा हम गुरुकुल में पढ़े हैं, थोड़ा आश्रमों में रहे हैं, तो उस तरह से लोगों को था, तो वो वहाँ पर पीपल बाबा नाम पड़ गया.
So it was the villagers who gave you that name.
Yes.
Absolutely true to the beginnings. So you mentioned that you planted your first tree when you were 11.
हाँ जी.
Who inspired an 11-year-old child to plant trees and then make it a passion and become what you've become today?
टीचर. हमारे 4th grade में जब हम पढ़ते थे स्पाइसेस एलिमेंट्री स्कूल पुणे में, माय फादर वाज इन द आर्मी एट दैट टाइम, मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल में वहाँ काम कर रहे थे. तो हम लोग जब स्कूल जाते थे तो हमारी एक टीचर हुआ करती थी, एंड शी वुड ऑलवेज टॉक अबाउट बर्ड्स, बीज एंड बटरफ्लाइज. यू नो, उस समय ये शब्द नहीं होते थे, सस्टेनेबिलिटी, क्लाइमेट एक्शन, ग्लोबल वार्मिंग, ओजोन होल, ये सब चीज़ें होती ही नहीं थी. वहाँ पर सिर्फ एक चीज़ होती थी कि अगर तुम पेड़ पौधे लगाओगे बेटा तो तुम्हें खुशी मिलेगी, तुम्हें हेल्थ एंड हैप्पीनेस मिलेगी. यू नो, तो वहाँ पर ये सब चीज़ें होती ही नहीं थी उस समय. सो जब मैम ने हमको ये चीज़ें समझाई, और जब हम दोपहर को घर आते थे तो सोने पे सुहागा हमारी नानी होती थी. वो नानी भी यही बात बोलती थी कि जो तुम्हारी टीचर कहती हैं वो बहुत अहम बात है. और एक और बात जो होती थी वो ये होती थी कि हमारी टीचर कहती थी कि देखो बेटा, डॉक्टर इंजीनियर तो कोई भी बन सकता है, लेकिन फुल टाइम पेड़ पौधों के लिए काम करने वाले पृथ्वी पे बहुत कम लोग हैं, है ना?
And it still holds true even today.
Yes, yes.
There are more doctors and engineers than people who would care for the environment.
Absolutely. और उस समय जब
Not saying
हमने
that
काम
doctors and
शुरू
engineers
किया तो हमने एनवायरनमेंट के लिए नहीं किया. सच पूछो तो 2010 तक जब तक हमने इसको एक ऑर्गेनाइज्ड वे से एक ट्रस्ट नहीं बनाया, ऑनेस्टली हमने कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि हम एनवायरनमेंट के लिए करें. हमने तो बर्ड्स, बीज एंड बटरफ्लाइज के लिए, क्योंकि टीचर ने हमें कहा था जो बर्ड्स, बीज एंड बटरफ्लाइज के लिए अच्छा होगा वो इंसानों के लिए भी अच्छा होगा. तो हम वही कर रहे थे जो इंसानियत और इंसान के लिए अच्छा है. बस हमें खुशी मिलती थी, इट वॉज अवर हैप्पी सॉन्ग, हमें मज़ा आता था, इसलिए हम करते थे, और हमारे साथ इसलिए लाखों लोग जुड़ भी गए.
Basically, what's good for nature will eventually be good for human beings as well. And that's exactly what our mission sustainability also implies. We need to take care of what we have right now so that it retains with us. Sir, also wanted to ask you, if a child comes to you today, like a 10-year-old comes to you, or a youngster, 20-year-old or a 30-year-old, any age, what would you tell them to inspire them the way you got inspired to start thinking about the environment or start planting trees or do anything more?
पहली बात तो ऑनेस्टली मैं उसको बोलूँगा बेटा न्यूज़ मत देखो, है ना? बड़ा डर लगता है, बहुत डर लगता है. यू नो, ये सब चीज़ें सुनते हैं तो बहुत
WION talks about mission sustainability, so they can watch
I
WION.
think यू नो, यहाँ पर एक बहुत प्यारा आपने कीवर्ड यूज़ किया, एक्शन. सो अगर मेरे पास, अब हमारे पास बच्चे आते हैं, हम लोग प्राइमरी स्कूल के बच्चों के साथ बहुत काम करते हैं, गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स के साथ काम करते हैं. 4 लाख के करीब हमारे पास बच्चे हैं जो हम पूरे हिंदुस्तान में 18 प्रदेशों में 202 ज़िलों में, इस वक्त हम लोग 5,17,000 एकड़ के ऊपर हमने काम किया. तो सबसे पहला जो मैं एक बच्चे को या एक यंगस्टर मेरे पास आता है, मैं उसको कहूँगा बेटा प्रैक्टिकल काम सीखो. सो वो जो ग्रीन स्किलिंग है वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. बच्चे को पता होनी चाहिए कि मिट्टी क्या होती है, हवा क्या होती है, पानी क्या होता है ना? एक ज्योग्राफी में कौन सी स्पीसीज लगाई जा सकती हैं, गाय भैंस बकरी से बचाने के लिए आपको किस तरह से अपने पेड़ पौधों को रखना है. पौधे को पेड़ बनाने में 5 साल लगते हैं, पौधे को पेड़ बनाने में 5 साल लगते हैं. आप एक इंस्टाग्राम फोटो के लिए हम लोग कर तो देते हैं, लेकिन भयंकर पाप लगता है अगर आपका पौधा मर जाता है. सो हमारा पूरा फोकस ये होता है उस बच्चे को वो जो 5 साल का प्रोसेस है वो जल्दी से जल्दी हम सिखाएं. घर घर नर्सरी बनवाना और एक सिटीज़न मूवमेंट क्रिएट करना, ये सारी चीज़ों को लेके, क्योंकि जो सरकारें हैं वो पॉलिसी बनाती हैं, वो फ़िज़ा बनाती हैं, वो एक एम्बियंस बनाती हैं, वो आपको एक प्यारा सा एक फील्ड तैयार करके देती हैं, लेकिन काम तो सर इंडिविजुअल को ही करना पड़ेगा. काम तो इंडिविजुअल को ही करना पड़ेगा. अब सरकार तो आके खड्डे खोदेगी नहीं, वहाँ सरकार तो आके नदियाँ साफ़ नहीं करेगी, सरकार आके तो कंपोस्टिंग करेगी नहीं, सरकार आके तो बर्ड्स, बीज एंड बटरफ्लाइज की बातें नहीं करेगी, बायोडाइवर्सिटी पे काम नहीं करेगी. वो तो पेपर पे कुछ पॉलिसीज़ बना सकते हैं, वो एक इंतज़ाम कर सकते हैं, है ना? तो वो बहुत पॉजिटिव वे से हो रहा है इस समय. लेकिन आई थिंक जो एक्शन वाला पार्ट है, जो हम बात कर रहे हैं, दो की
नो एक्शन नॉट एन ऑप्शन.
यस, ऑप्शन तो है ही नहीं जी, ऑप्शन तो है ही नहीं आपके पास.
So there was one more thing, and anybody who's heard you would know this. For those who don't, I'm repeating this. People Baba has always, insisted that you do planting by yourself, or anything that you're doing in terms of plantations, in terms of your saplings, in terms of gardening, do it alone. And you've stressed it several times. It's not ki ek aad baar, it's several times you would say it. do it alone. I want to understand, why is there so much stress on doing it alone? How does it help? Does it have benefits for your mental health? Does it help you, does it still your thoughts? What other impacts does it have, and why is it necessary to do it alone? Why do you stress so much on that?
सर इसलिए हम कहते हैं कि आप अकेले कीजिए, क्योंकि फिर आपको काम आता है ना? आप ग्रुप में, भीड़ में ना योग होता है, ना ध्यान होता है, ना ही पेड़ पौधों का काम होता है, ठीक है? भीड़ में तो सिर्फ तमाशा होता है। भीड़ में तो आप बैनर लेके चले जाते हैं, आप जाके कहीं डिवाइडर पे खड़े हो जाते हैं, 40 लोग एक पौधे को पकड़ के खड़े होके फोटो खिंचवा रहे होते हैं। आधा टाइम तो वो पौधा ही मर जाता है। क्यों? क्योंकि इधर से लोग खींच रहे हैं, उधर से लोग खींच रहे हैं। तो जब आप अकेले जाते हैं ना, तो आप इफेक्टिव काम करते हैं। और अपना फ़ोन मत लेके जाइए, हम हमेशा बोलते हैं, क्योंकि आप फ़ोटो ही खींचते रहेंगे, रील ही बनाते रहेंगे उसकी। तो अगर आप अकेले जाएंगे तो आप काम करके आएंगे। आप आके अपना डायरी में नोट कीजिए, बाद में अपना बेशक आप पोस्ट कर दीजिए कि हमने ये काम किया है। वी टॉक अबाउट इफेक्टिव वर्क, वी टॉक अबाउट वर्क एफिशिएंसी। सर हमारे पास ना इस वक्त ऑप्शन ज़्यादा नहीं है। मुझे बहुत अजीब लगता है जब कोई बात करता है 2070 की, 2050 का कोई प्लान है गवर्नमेंट के पास। सर ना आप रहेंगे ना मैं रहूँगा। इतना दूर किसने देखा है? पहली बात तो देखिए, मैं फील्ड का आदमी हूँ, 46 साल हमने जंगलों में काम किया है, 7 साल से ज़्यादा आपके पास समय नहीं। यू हैव 7 years। मैं 7 साल भी शायद थोड़ा सा 1 आध साल ज़्यादा बोल रहा हूँ। जिस तरह से होमोसेपियन रेस चल रही है, ह्यूमन डोमिनेटेड हिस्ट्री इज कमिंग टू एन एंड। द वे एल्गोरिदम्स आर टेकिंग ओवर, द AI इज टेकिंग ओवर। ये जो हम बात करते हैं ऐप्स की, पेटेंट्स की, इसकी उसकी, ये ठीक है, ये वर्चुअल उसमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है। सर ग्राउंड पे जाके देखिए, गांव में जाके देखिए, नदियों के पास खड़े होके देखिए, कभी नदी के पानी में हाथ डाल के देखिए, तो आपको पता चलेगा नदी बह कहाँ रही है, ठीक है? तो ग्राउंड रियलिटी बहुत 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 डिफरेंट है। व्हाट वी सी ऑन स्टेजेस, कभी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस होती हैं, सेमिनार्स होते हैं गवर्नमेंट में, अभी G20 के दौरान भी हमें बुलाया गया। हम जो बात कर रहे हैं, खैर एक चीज़ बहुत अच्छी लगती है कि इतनी प्लेजेंट बातें होती हैं, तो हम भी सोचते हैं यार हाँ दुनिया में सब कुछ ठीक है, लेकिन नहीं। द नेक्स्ट डे व्हेन यू गो ऑन द फील्ड, थिंग्स आर वेरी डिफरेंट, सो आई थिंक पावरपॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशन अलग चीज़ होती है, लेकिन जो रियल लाइफ है वो अलग है। सो आई थिंक एक्शन इज़ रिक्वायर्ड। अगेन मैं कहता हूँ हमारे पास ऑप्शन नहीं है, हमें उन लोगों को सपोर्ट करना है सर जो ग्राउंड पे काम कर रहे हैं, जो ग्राउंड पे काम कर रहे हैं। आपके पास उत्तराखंड में इतने प्यारे प्यारे लोग हैं, हमारे पास मध्य प्रदेश में इतने अच्छे लोग हैं। मैं हज़ारों ऐसे एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट को जानता हूँ, लेकिन उनके पास सपोर्ट नहीं है। क्यों? क्योंकि उनको PPT बनाना नहीं आता, उनके पास लैपटॉप नहीं है, उनके पास स्मार्टफोन नहीं है, लेकिन वो ग्राउंड पे काम कर रहे हैं, वो खेतों को संभाल के बैठे हुए हैं। ये जो हम ना एक चीज़ है, हम हर चीज़ में धंधा ले आते हैं, हर चीज़ में कॉमर्स ले आते हैं, हर चीज़ में बिजनेस मॉडल ले आते हैं। आपने तो पेड़ों को भी दलाल स्ट्रीट पे खड़ा कर दिया कार्बन क्रेडिट के नाम पे। अरे भाई, कुछ हेल्थ एंड हैप्पीनेस भी तो कोई चीज़ होती है। हम अपनी सेहत के बारे में तो कोई बात ही नहीं कर, वेलनेस की तो कोई बात ही नहीं कर रहा। अभी भी आप बात कर रहे हैं AQI, अरे AQI इज जस्ट अ नंबर। दिल्ली में 5.5 लाख लोग पल्मोनरी डिसऑर्डर से मर रहे हैं, और हम लोगों को फिक्र थी कि कोरोना से सिर्फ 4 लाख लोग मरे। हम हर साल 5.5 लाख लोग मर रहे हैं। 13.5 लाख लोग हम जो एक्सप्रेसवेज और हाईवेज बनाते हैं उसमें फेटली वुंडेड होते हैं, मतलब डेथ हो जाती है, हम उसके ऊपर नहीं। हाईवेज और एक्सप्रेसवे तो 4 पहिए जो रबड़ के होते हैं, उस पर एक लोहे का ढांचा होता है जिसको SUV और आप ऑटोमोबाइल बोलते हैं, वो तो उसके लिए बनाया गया है। इंसानों के लिए आप क्या कर रहे हैं? ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक जो है वो क्लाइमेट एक्शन और ये जो ऑप्शंस और एक्शंस हैं ह्यूमन सेंट्रिक, वो नहीं हो रहे हैं, अभी भी बिजनेस सेंट्रिक हो रहा है।
So, you've made something very clear, that keep your phone away, don't go in groups, do it yourself,
yes,
and apply yourself, and make sure that that plant lives. Last question to you, and if you can sum it up, on an individual level, when one goes back home, what can one do at home? Because each one can't go to the ground. There are,
Absolutely.
you understand that. What can one do within the means that one has? And we'll wrap it up there.
Okay. Increase the chlorophyll content around you. Chlorophyll is God. कोई मस्जिद, कोई गिरजाघर, कोई मंदिर ऑक्सीजन नहीं देता। क्लोरोफिल फोटोसिंथेसिस देता है, फोटोसिंथेसिस से ऑक्सीजन होता है। ऑक्सीजन जीवन ऊर्जा है, प्राण ऊर्जा है। उसके कारण मैं आज आपसे बात कर रहा हूँ, ये हमसे बात कर रहे हैं, आप सामने बैठे हैं। ऑक्सीजन, क्लोरोफिल, क्लोरोफिल इज गॉड, पत्ता ही परमात्मा है। अगर आप ये चीज़ समझ जाते हैं तो सारा सोल्यूशन निकल आता है। लेकिन होता क्या है, हम इतने टेक्नोलॉजी ऑब्सेस्ड हैं, हम इतने बिजनेस ऑब्सेस्ड हैं, हम इतना कॉमर्स हैं, हम ये जो फंडामेंटल चीज़ें हैं इसको भूल जाते हैं। क्लोरोफिल इज गॉड। अब आपको क्या करना चाहिए? आई थिंक एवरी सिटीजन, इफ़ यू कैन सराउंड योर सेल्फ विथ प्लांट्स। बिल्कुल आपने सही कहा, कोई ऐसा इंसान नहीं है कि हर इंसान जाके उठ के जाके जंगल में पेड़ नहीं लगाएगा, हर इंसान जाके प्लांटेशन नहीं करेगा। एंड ट्री प्लांटेशन इज़ नॉट द ओनली थिंग टू बी डन। 50% ऑक्सीजन तो आपका ओशन में प्लैंक्टन्स देते हैं आपको, ऐसा नहीं है। लेकिन एक संस्कार है, ये एक सेंसिटिविटी है, इट इज़ एन अडेप्शन, एक आपकी डिवोशन है कि आप मानते हैं कि जो 400 मिलियन ईयर्स से जो पृथ्वी चल रही है, ये जो पेड़ों की सरकार है ये चला रही है। 400 मिलियन ईयर्स से ये पृथ्वी चल रही है, हम लोग तो सिर्फ 50,000 साल पहले आए हैं। सो इन वॉट एवर वे यू कैन डू गुड एक्शन, जो हमारे पास ऑप्शंस हैं वो यही हैं कि आपके पास गूगल बाबा हैं, आपके पास इंटरनेट है, आप पढ़िए, देखिए, अच्छे लोगों की संगत में रहिए, जो आप कर सकते हैं कीजिए। आपके पास संडे का समय होता है, जो आप कर सकते हैं करें। आप अपना रूफटॉप गार्डन बनाइए, आप अपने बैल्कनी में पौधे रखिए, आप जितना लीफ कंटेंट बढ़ा सकते हैं, जितना ग्रीन कंटेंट बढ़ा सकते हैं, जितना क्लोरोफिल कंटेंट बढ़ा सकते हैं, बढ़ाइए। एंड आई फील एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट नहीं, फॉरेस्ट्री, एफ फॉर फॉरेस्ट्री, एफ फॉर फार्मर। अगर आपका फार्मर ठीक है तो किसी देश को एनवायरमेंटलिस्ट की ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। आई थिंक हम फार्मिंग पे इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर रहे हैं। आज यहाँ पर इतने बड़े बड़े PSU CSR वाले लोग आए हैं, मैं कहूँगा पहले किसान को फंड करो, आप फार्मिंग को कंसिडर। अगर आपकी जैविक फार्मिंग अपनी ठीक है तो कार्बन सिक्वेस्ट्रेशन तो सबसे ज़्यादा आपका वहाँ होता है, जंगल लगाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। एंड लास्ट में मैं ये कहूँगा कि एवरी सिटीज़न, यू नो, आई थिंक अब हमको सिटीज़न लेवल पे ही काम करना पड़ेगा। आई थिंक हमारी जो पॉलिसीज़ बननी चाहिए और हमारी जो डिस्कोर्स होना चाहिए, हमारा जो डिस्कशन होना चाहिए, वो हमेशा सिटीज़न लेवल पे होना चाहिए, इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे होना चाहिए। गवर्नमेंट एक एम्बियंस, एक फ़िज़ा बनाती है, वो आपको एक डायरेक्शन देती है, वो आपको सिर्फ पेपर पॉलिसीज़ देती है। एक्शन आपको सिटीज़न को ही करना पड़ेगा और हमें ही करना पड़ेगा। बस मैं ये कहूँगा, सराउंड योरसेल्फ विद प्लांट्स एज मच एज पॉसिबल। दिल्ली में हैं आप, दिल्ली NCR में हैं सर, AQI ऑलरेडी हो गया है और आने वाला जो वक्त है वो काफ़ी है ना। सो आई थिंक इफ़ यू कैन सराउंड योरसेल्फ विद प्लांट्स, एंड प्लांट्स जो है आपकी फिजियोलॉजी, आपकी साइकोलॉजी का इफेक्ट करता है, इट कैन ब्रिंग यू हेल्थ एंड हैप्पीनेस।
Thank you so much, sir. And citizens need to take action because no action is not an option. Thank you so much for your time and joining us.
And don't we all love listening into what People Baba has to share with us? And a huge round of applause also for that optimism that you have shared with us. You are leading by example, truly. And thank you very much for those strong words and the messaging that you've given out. Truly inspiring, your journey, sir. Let's now talk about the challenges. Because let's face it, the road ahead to sustainability comes with a lot of hurdles, and navigating those challenges also means being aware of the problems that we are surrounded by. And talking specifically about e-mobility, and as that session earlier pointed out, there is a need to realize the challenges need to be dealt with, and also that time is running out to actually deal with them. And that brings us to our next session. It's a very special conversation coming up, focusing on sustainable last mile mobility. We will have Akash Gupta, co-founder and CEO Zip Electric, in conversation with Ankit Avasthi, who is the head New Mobility Practice, NRI Consulting, and solutions. Thank you very much for being here. If I can please have you both up on stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly, for the introductions. Good evening, Akash. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. What a enthralling evening this has been, starting from the amazing performance by Indian Ocean and the various words of wisdom shared by all of our speakers earlier today. So, Akash, before we get into the nitty-gritties of the last mile logistics, why don't we talk a bit more about the genesis of Zip Electric? You've been a very successful entrepreneur, and before that, you've been in various other different companies. So, what led you to create Zip Electric, and what was the thought process behind that? If you could shed some light on it, please.
Sure. Thanks, Ankit, and thank you for having me here. It's a great initiative of Mission Sustainability. I must firstly congratulate for all of you to think about it. So it goes back to my early roots, right? I come from Jaipur. I was born in a middle-class family. The only thing that I would say that my mom would have told me is that your name is Akash and you need to just touch the sky at some point in time in life. I think that ingrained in me, and I was on a quest of my own. With a Marwadi bug in me, right? But the quest was to possibly build something of my own. But I didn't have the resources, neither the knowledge nor the courage to start on day one, because possibly the idea was not right when I was trying multiple things. So I had a long corporate career of 10 years, worked in companies like Airtel, a couple of startups like Snapdeal and MobiKwik. But while I was on a quest to find my calling and to leave it all and start up, I wanted to create a large impact. That was one thing that when I go back after the hard work, because I know that building a startup is not easy. Entrepreneurship is like every day you get beaten. And once you get beaten every day and you're going back to your bed, at least you feel that you're doing something for the larger world, right? So I was on a lookout of ideas that could really have a large impact. And around 2017, when I was on this lookout, and this is like global travel, a lot of research, learning about startup world, entrepreneurship, I stumbled on this thought of electric mobility, right? It was picking up in a few areas, like US, Tesla was doing well. China, there were a few things happening and they were way ahead on electric mobility. And while we all talk about pollution, right? We talk about AQIs. I thought that maybe this is my calling, right? Can I do something to impact, right, this large problem of pollution and climate change, which is out here? And yeah, I think once I stumbled on it, it was somewhere in 2017 May, and then it was no looking back. I said that this is the business that I want to build. Within a few months, I quit. I started building a team around that. I registered the company within a month. And yeah, I think I'm happy now that I took that step.
I'm sure. I think what a journey it has been. We've seen Zip Electric grow and prosper over the last 5-6 years. Akash, you mentioned, about your experience or what you saw happening in US and China.
Yeah.
And let me delve a little deeper into that.
Sure.
Because particularly what we have seen is that the Western or developed economies, for them, electric predominantly was four-wheelers. Yeah. India is a very different market. For us, the biggest share in the automotive sector is actually the two-wheelers.
Yeah.
And that's precisely where you are.
Absolutely.
And we've seen this last mile mobility logistics really take a shape, of its own, take a life of its own in the last 4 or 5 years since when you become active probably. So would you care to elaborate on that? How did you figure out that this two-wheeler segment, right, this last mile mobility is where you want to get into?
Yeah. So early on, we dribbled a lot, multiple. We failed, for almost a year and a half. We were figuring out what to do, what not to do. The mission was clear. Mission Zero Emission is our, anthem. And we wanted to do something in that space, but it was not very evident. So we figured out while we were doing different things, a lot of companies were approaching us. Our brand was visible. Zomato was reaching out to us, hey, can you deliver goods for us? You talk about electric, let's do it. We've been not able to do this. Same was Amazon, same was Big Basket. And at that time, you know, as a founder, when you're struggling in your thinking that what to do, and this customer who's asking for this solution, we said that, you know, the least that we can do is try. And we started trying. At that time, there were no OEMs properly making these bikes. There was no charging infrastructure. Nobody knew how to maintain these electric bikes. Finding drivers was not easy. And then, you know, it's just, you know, finding all of that over and over again. The tech, we had to build all in-house in terms of fleet management and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the only option that we had was to try. And once we started trying and we started deploying some of those vehicles, we saw that there was crazy adoption, because at this time, Zomato, which is struggling, they found their calling that, hey, this is working. There's a player who's coming forward. They are putting the vehicles, they are putting the charging infrastructure, they are getting the drivers for us, they are solving the ecosystem, they are finding financing for it in various creative means. And then the ball started rolling. I mean, COVID happened, which was 2020, and at that time we had like a crazy mad rush. Everyone wanted last mile delivery, which is reliable, and sustainability was an icing on the cake, right? So essentially that was in a way our fathom into two-wheelers. And then when we took a look at the entire industry, today there are 3 key shifts happening in the Indian logistics market, right? One of them is a lot of e-commerce is now moving towards fast commerce. When you order on Amazon or a Zepto or a Big Basket, you want things delivered today. You don't want to wait for 5 days. And when you enable fast commerce, it's going to happen more with two-wheelers and three-wheelers, because you can pick, go. You can't wait and fill a truck. It'll take days, right? So that's one change. The second change which is happening is the entire shift from unorganized deliveries to organized. Because you don't see two-wheelers as today part of even the logistics policy of our country. While today almost 50% of all logistics is happening via smaller vehicles. So yeah, in fact, you know, I'm talking to government for that. The third key shift, which is most important, is the shift from IC to electric. And not just because of sustainability, while we are talking about mission sustainability, but electric mobility can be adopted only if it makes sense financially, right? So when we started looking at it, financially it makes a lot of sense. The TCO of an electric vehicle over a lifespan is better than a petrol vehicle. So that is the key point why this change is happening.
Got it. Akash, you know, thank you so much for you know, that detailed and elaborate answer of yours. And there were many points I wanted to pick on. But you know, let me first pick up on this point where you mentioned that you're working on zero emissions, right? So definitely EVs offer zero tailpipe emissions. Yes. But since we are on topic of mission sustainability era, so let me talk about, you know, what is the well-to-wheel emission of electric vehicles, right? And various reports, in fact, we've also done some studies around it, and they state that, you know, the well-to-wheel emissions, that is, you know, considering also the energy generation of electric vehicle, may not be too far away from the conventional ICE vehicles. So from that perspective, what's your take?
So frankly, it's a good point that you've raised. See, while electric is taking the pollution away from the cities, because the tailpipe emission is not happening, but it is still, the electricity transmission is not renewable today in India, right? But what I hear, what I learn is that about 40% of that now in India is, you know, the grid is now on renewable. And there's a huge focus from our government, our Prime Minister, when we talk about COP70 and all of that, there is a mission to take it from 40 to about 80% over the next 20 years, right? But I would rather say that yes, it is still, you know, electric. When you do electric versus fuel, you are still saving pollution by 40%, right? So when we calculate at ZIP, on every kilometer that our vehicle is driven, it's saving about 65 grams of carbon. Right? So which is small, but it's one step at a time. But we are sitting in a country which is again, we have the largest land bank in that sense. We have huge power of sun coming to us. There are a lot of water resources. And that is what I would want to say, that people who are listening here, this is the land of opportunity. Why don't we put solar on rooftops of everyone? We have so much large land bank, and why can't electricity be generated via solar? Why solar has not picked up in India when there is so much possible in that, right?
Absolutely.
So I think those interventions are again one step. Someone like 6 years back, I was sitting and thinking about electrification. Maybe a lot of people who are listening here wanting to build startups, this is opportunity. Start working on renewables.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Akash, we probably have time for one last question. And I said I had multiple questions, but I'll try to stick to just one. You raised a very pertinent point that EVs are probably being adopted because of lower TCO, the lower operating cost. Yeah. And my question then is, should that be the only reason? While I understand, the cost economics are really important for every business, but should that lower operating cost be the only reason? Shouldn't we, as a society, shouldn't the consumers, right, your end consumers of Zomato, shouldn't they be, talking about, hey, I want a green delivery. I want to do my bit for the society, for sustainability, and I'm willing to pay in case there's any additional delta.
Say a premium.
But, say a premium. But for that sustainable choice. What do you think? Is this possible? And what can we, as part of the industry, do to make this happen?
So sure, I think great point that you've raised, but I'll give you an anecdote. And that's a real example. I was in London last week in a climate summit, and I saw that there were so many things, which were pro to electric in London, and there's a sheer effort taken by the government, right? And how I can give you a few examples, right? The price of an EV car in London versus a petrol car was almost similar, right? In India, if you buy an electric, it's a 9 lakh versus a 16 lakh gap. A person would think that I'm paying for petrol on day one, right? That's one problem. Second, everything that they've set up crazy amount of charging stations everywhere, right? They have a very interesting concept that you cannot change the lane. There's a traffic congestion lane, right? So for electric, they've allowed the lane change at any point in time of the day. But on petrol, they charge a £15 per day fine if you even change the lane, on traffic. All the parkings, the electric charging is free. So these are a few efforts. There's Uber. When you call an Uber in London, you have an electric which is cheaper than petrol. So there are things which are happening, and why can't we take those certain efforts? When we talk to our customers, they would want that EV should be cheap. Versus EV is a lot more premium from a choice that yes, you have to buy the vehicles, you have to deploy charging stations, you have to take care of the end of life of the battery. But yes, maybe on this stage I can say that as a consumer, the next time when you're ordering goods, ordering food, ordering e-commerce, if you demand from the customer service, hey, can it be electric? Can it be on one of those green scooters or any of those companies who are building electric? I would be a happy man, and possibly India would be a happy place.
I hope so too, Akash. Akash, thank you for your time today. I think you really brought up some very interesting points, and I hope people who listen into you, they look forward to creating new startups in renewable energy, in sustainable business development, and the consumers, right? The people of India, they take this step, as you mentioned, to go on and say, hey, we are willing to pay that premium, if at all, but make that sustainable choice for the future of tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Ankit. It's a pleasure chatting with you, and
Pleasure
great questions you asked today.
Thank you, Akash.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, a selfie is something that we will see a lot more happening after the session as well, I'm sure, as those attending have been inspired by the conversations that we've seen unfold on stage, and we'll see a lot more of that happening off the stage as well after this session. But we have a very important conversation coming up where we focus on the need for integrating sustainability into business operations. How does one create mindful businesses that actually involve a holistic approach, also taking into account the need for green actions as far as business operations are concerned, the theme being corporate sustainability and responsible business practices adopting inclusive action. That is the theme for our next session. And let me now invite on stage the panelists for this next session. We have with us Sanjeev Ranjan, VP and Head CSR Wellspun Foundation. We also have Crispino Lobo, co-founder Watershed Organization Trust and Sampada Trust, and Ritesh Sinha, Group CSR Head, Krishna Maruti Limited. This session will be moderated by my colleague Shivan Channa.
Pleasure to have all of you here. With Sanjeev and Mr. Lobo, we've had a bit of a discussion outside. So with you, we'll catch up on what we start. So, Mr. Ranjan, let me start with you. You mentioned a lot about what your firm, what Wellspun is doing regarding saving groundwater and how you are actually aiming at not using any groundwater altogether. Talk to us about how you've started that initiative and how that can be adopted by other firms as well.
We have discussion outside, so let's share with other people also. Our plant at Anjar, it's in Kutch district in Gujarat. So we are, it's a water scarce area, and the water which is available, it's saline. So in 2001, after the earthquake, we came there and we started our activities. So water, and we are in the textile sector. So water is very much is required, and fresh water and clean water is required. So what we did, we have 3 urban agglomeration near us. It's Gandhidham, Anjar, and Adipur. And they don't have any STP in the urban local body. So we created a 40 MLD STP plant. We started taking sewage water from them, and we started recycling it for our own purpose, and we started using that. First thing, we get the water, clean water, as crystal clear water. What is filled here, there on water is on the every table is better than that. Second thing, the sludge which we are getting, जैसा People Baba ने कहा, we have started using it because it's a totally barren land. So we have started using in and around the farmers who are there. We have started giving them free of cost. Use it as a biofertilizer in your agriculture field. So we started doing that. Third benefit, what community got out of that, that the water which was earlier coming for Wellspun group is now diverted, because we are not using that fresh water. It's diverted for agriculture, irrigation purpose, and other activities to the community and the farmers. So they started getting double income on that.
So when it comes to water, I'll come to Mr. Lobo on that. You worked extensively on it with the Watershed Organization Trust. So you worked extensively in the rural sector, so I'll obviously direct it there. But there is one concern, and I shared this with you earlier also. It's a question which comes to a lot of people's minds as well. Water, with the kind of catastrophes we're seeing, with the kind of floods we're seeing, it's a little difficult to understand why, when there is no shortage of water otherwise, why is drinking water such a big problem? Why can't that be derived from it? So if you can share your thoughts on what are the issues that one faces in terms of generating drinking water or usable water for humans, and also, weigh in on all that you're doing on the rural sector.
Yeah, thank you. You see, water ultimately comes from rain, and when it's underground. So if we do not get rain or adequate amounts of it, then obviously you're going to have a period of water shortage and drought, right? If you extract too much of water from the ground, that's a limited, finite resource. So sooner or later, if you mine it, you're going to exhaust it. There's an irony also that rain in India comes, most of it, during the monsoons. And 80% of Indian rain, of our monsoons is the southwest monsoons. So you have in those 4 months, actually not more than 45 days when you have what is called as harvestable rainwater. So you got only that much time to capture the rainwater wherever it falls, to store it on the surface, to slow its runoff, and to force it underground. That's the window of opportunity you have. And if you don't do that, and you don't get enough water or rain, then you're in trouble. That's one part. The other part, the irony is sometimes you have too much of rain.
Yes.
And still you have water shortage shortly after the rain is over. That's because if it comes in a downpour, then it runs off. And the trouble with us is, though we have plenty of rain in India on the peninsular level, on the large scale level, we do not capture enough of it in situ and store adequate amounts of it nearest to the habitations or to use it when there's no more rain. So that's another problem with getting too much rain but not storing enough. And the last is, when we have enough water, we still don't have enough available because we waste it. So do you know that 40% of water, when it's transferred from the dams to the cities, 40% of it is lost in conveyance only, just coming to your place through leakage, through damages to the infrastructure, and lastly when we waste it in our homes. So I guess
it has to start at the home level.
Absolutely.
Stop wasting water is something, that but we still need to be told that, because still there is 40% wastage that you're talking about.
Yes.
So talk to us about, you shared something very, very insightful, that, urban India and rural India, it is not a 50-50 divide. It's a 70-30 divide, with 70% which is still on the rural sector, and how urban sector actually depends on it. Talk to us about that, and in terms of, the work that you are doing in the rural sector.
Yes, it might be interesting to know that as much as 70% of our geographical area is what is called as dry lands. That means it depends on rain for survival. And the people who live out there, who are the majority of our countrymen, depend on that, rain and groundwater. And both these sources of water are at serious risk now because of population increase, economic growth, over-exploitation of water resources, and wasteful use, number one. And number two, because of climate change. You see, what has been happening. We've had the hottest summer ever recorded. Yes. That has implications for rainfall and how it happens.
Yes.
Number two, urbanites don't realize that most of their water comes from rural India. Our dams, which supply water to cities, are out there. And if we don't take care of the storage areas there, which includes regenerating and protecting the environment, then our dams will not get filled also. So all these things, water is quite a complex affair.
Thank you so much, sir, for weighing in on that. Mr. Sinha, I'll come to you next. You're the group CSR head for Krishna Maruti Limited. I'll take it close to your domain of work. While deciding, CSR initiatives, how much of sustainability plays a role in, what you decide to invest in, or what you decide to, project your funds into while deciding your initiatives?
Very true, very true. Thank you very much for inviting me for such a wonderful event that is addressing the most urgent requirement of the future. So this event basically talks about the corporate sustainability. Now, corporate sustainability has been a very buzzword in the corporate sectors, and every corporate is adopting their strategy to have the sustainability in their place. I would like to raise some of the concerns for the corporate sustainability, and the major consideration that we are taking here is that the commitment and the business commitment from the management. That is the very important factor that has to be taken. Secondly, the sustainability cannot be considered in isolation. It should not be a part that can be treated as an appropriation of the profit, but it should be certain, like it should be a part of the major component of the cost of the project. So sustainability has to be embedded into the business operations. That's very important. Third concern which I would like to raise is that in our case, the sustainability basically, we consider it as an investment, as a long-term vision of the company. So if we talk about the sustainability, so it's going to yield the results in the futures for us. And we have embedded on the journey of the sustainability in the last 1 or 2 years. So we have started our journey here. Apart from that, if you talk about the sustainability as a corporate sustainability I'm talking about, so it's basically talks about the adoption of the inclusive development, which talks about we are considering all the 3 pillars of the sustainability into that, which involves the economical sustainability, environmental sustainability, as well as the social sustainabilities. And involvement of all the stakeholders, which are basically affecting our projects, as well as which is being influenced by our project. So we involve all those them, because if anybody is left behind, then we come to the same position where we are starting. In this way, we take into the consideration our corporate social responsibility is the another factor which we talk about, where we invest on the sustainability practices. Here what we do is that first we start with the corporate social responsibility projects, where we try to improve the quality of the life of the people around us. And then we try to make them aware of the emerging sustainable issues, so that once they are off and they are better off in the future, then only they will be able to think for the larger vision of the sustainability. So we work on this and we convert our corporate social responsibility into the corporate sustainability.
I think, you know, how difficult is it to converge long-term growth based on sustainability and short-term financial gains which any business needs? From your experience, how do you bridge that gap?
See, it's sustainability is anyone can't achieve in a year, so it has to be a long-term thing. What we at Welspun are doing, we are creating institution at grassroots level. Lobo sir will support me in that whenever any institution is created at the community level, if we withdraw our support, because we have to go to another areas also, we have to take care of other areas and other requirements. So that has to be sustainable on their own. For that, what we are doing, we are now doing collaboration. And it's not only about Welspun. Many organizations, suppose that if I am very good at project management, but preparing a project on water, he is the best person. So I will collaborate with his water organization, and then jointly we will organize a good program. And from the day one, what we do, from the day one, we try to convince the community that this is your thing. You are the partner. Ultimately, you have to take care of this. We are only channelizing the support, which we are funding, technology input, technical input, everything which we are getting from others. We are just becoming an intermediary in between. So you have to manage it after once we leave. So same thing it is on the company side also. So it takes time, but yes, every organization has started thinking on that, and they all are implementing in that. Time is to have a collaboration for convergence of a good program.
Mr. Lobo, I'll come back. At an individual level and also at an enterprise level or at a company level, what an organization can do and what an individual can do to curb that, because it's not something somebody doesn't know, that wasting water is a bad thing. Everyone knows that, but still it is happening. What can be done at both these levels to ensure that it is reduced?
Yeah, so it depends where you are located. So if you're in the town, then obviously it's a different ball game completely. So when you brush your teeth, for instance, don't leave the taps open. Just use it when you require to use it. If there's a leak in your building, people often ignore that, but that's hell of a lot of water lost over a period of a year. And if in the locality the pipes are rusted and old and you know for sure it's leaking, get that repaired. If you're living in the rural areas and you're living in an area where water is a problem, then you need to look at where it comes from, which is the rain. So what we do is we organize communities to actually capture rainwater across the landscapes and the micro-catchments they live in at scale, because that's the only source you have. And once it rains, you know, it runs off. You need to slow it down. You've got to make it walk. And when it's walking, you stop it. By doing that, you're able to store it on surface, you infiltrate the soil, and you recharge the groundwater aquifers. You want to keep most of your water in tropical India, where we have scorching summers. You want to keep it most underground, because then evaporation, which is as much as 60 to 70% in the dry season, is saved. That water is when you need it most. So you take up this kind of comprehensive water harvesting structures by doing watershed development on a rich to valley basis through community mobilization. Then at least from the supply side aspect of water, you can augment your water resources, but that's not enough. You need to also manage its use, or the demand side of water. Because we human beings, what we are, it's never enough. We'll always find a way of using it and some more. So we launched this concept of water stewardship, where we get community
Water stewardship.
stewardship. That means this is a precious resource, and we owe it not only to ourselves, but to succeeding generations, and not only for human needs and its economy, but for nature also. We often forget that water is a natural common good. And we now, as human beings, are consuming most of it, living very little back to nature. So the ecosystem management is so crucial, not only to ensuring sustainability in water, but also for our future. You see? So this issue of taking responsibility for nature and water, managing it efficiently and productively and equitably, is key to our sustainability and our water security. Only one point. It is estimated by 2030, water will be a key constraint to our economic growth, in fact, shaving off as much as 6% to our GDP, and that's a conservative estimate. I think that's the scale of the challenge we are facing.
That is definitely a huge scale. Mr. Sinha, I'll come to you for one last time. And, we're of course talking about responsible business practices. So when it comes to CSR, where does that responsibility start? And how do you execute it in terms of the projects that you take up?
Okay. So the major things which we do here in our corporate social responsibility, responsible practices is that we first of all go into the field where we assess the need and conduct the baseline survey. And we come out with the various kinds of issues that emerge in the communities. So at the community level, we have a long discussion with the panchayat, with the villagers, with the households at the level. And then what we do is that we formulate the projects accordingly and have our budgets which we allocate to the different projects which we are doing under the various initiatives like the health initiatives, education, skill development, as well as the environment which we have taken up, which includes the waste and the solid waste management which we have taken up with the communities. Here what we do is that we formulate all the projects in the different pockets, and then what we do is that we implement the projects accordingly, and then we go for the monitoring and evaluation of the project. So here what we do is that we make the people aware of their conditions, of the environmental conditions which they are facing in there, and then we make them understand that this is the solution, and the solution will come from them itself. So we work with them and get the solution from them, which we implement through our programs. And in this case, we implement a large amount of sustainable programs, which I would like to tell you about the programs that we are basically having the sustainable program on solid waste management, where we are involving the households into segregating the waste at the source and then converting it into the manure and the fields. So here we are going for the waste recovery. Second aspect which we are doing is that we are going for the solar energy promotions, where we are replacing all the street lights and the schools with the solar lights. Here we are going for the sustainable future. And here we have come up with, we have taken around 5 villages which we have started it, and we will be replicating to another 10 villages in the coming futures. Third is that water recharge, which Mr. Lobo was telling about, that water recharge thing, that we are having the ponds in the areas, in the villages. So we are rejuvenating those ponds and making it accessible to the peoples with the beautification and all kind of activities, and making the people having the sense of environmental consciousness and helping to sustain the futures. Because I just want to add one thing to says that nature provide free lunch to everyone, but we need to control our appetite for the nature. Thank you very much.
Summed it up perfectly. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjeev Ranjan, Mr. Crispino Lobo, and Mr. Ritesh Sinha for all your insights on mission sustainability. And thank you so much for joining in, because no action is not an option, and you're already practicing that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that insightful conversation. As we've been discussing through the course of this evening, the change begins with us. Every small step that you undertake will go a long way, and building mindful businesses and actually integrating sustainability into business practices is a very important part of this journey towards sustainability, and something that we at WION have been talking about. The very fact that we have no planet B, the time to act is now. Hashtag no action, not an option. That's the message that we're sending out. Up next is a very special conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have amongst us someone who has so many titles to her name. I don't know where to start, but I have to say, first and foremost, that she has been leading by example when it comes to actually bringing about a change in her own way. A sustainability champion herself. Gul Panag, ladies and gentlemen, is someone who has actually made a difference. She is, apart from being an actor, she's also an entrepreneur and a sustainability warrior. We have with us also Vikram Chandra, senior journalist and presenter at the India Story WION, who will be engaging in that conversation with Gul Panag. A huge round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen.
Gul, it's such a pleasure talking to you and getting a chance to once again pick your brains on something that is really important. Sustainability, climate change, making an impact, changing the world. These are all very noble causes. They're very noble things to do. And people like you do try and go out and make an effort to make a change. Talk to us a little bit about how that can actually be done. Is there a responsibility for somebody who's a well-known person, who's a celebrity, to try and make that change? And if there is a responsibility, what's the most effective way of doing it?
I think firstly, Vikram, everyone has a responsibility. Whether they are a quote-unquote celebrity or not, all of us have a shared responsibility towards the world we live in. It's the house that we have. So when you live in a home, you're equally responsible after a certain stage. You can forgive a toddler for not being responsible, but thereafter we all have responsibilities. And the world we live in is our home. So whether somebody is famous, whether they have a platform like the one that you have and I am privileged to have, is secondary. I think all of us have a responsibility and we have to be cognizant of it. I think what you choose to do with that responsibility is deeply personal. Some people take it upon themselves to use the platform available to them to do more, and others do things that are perhaps less visible in the public eye. But I'm of the view that everybody is doing something or the other to shoulder their share of responsibility towards society, sustainability being one part. But I also think more conversations need to be had about sustainability and what it entails by breaking it down. As you and I were chatting before this, I think we hear the word sustainability a lot, but what is it broken down into? What are the actionables it entails? I think that is the broader conversation one should be having.
And I'm going to spend some time going into that in some detail to try and get action points, because as we end this, as people are watching this, they should walk away saying, okay, this is how we can actually try and make a difference and try and make a change in our own lives and try and communicate that to others. But just from that point of responsibility and trying to make a change, it almost starts to seem that now, in the last few years, given a certain amount of, how do I put it, toxicity on social media and a lot of backlash, and if you say something, 10 people jump down your throat, it's starting to happen to a lot of people who have the ability to make a change, who have the voice to make a change, are choosing to say, why am I getting into it? It's better to just be quiet and stay out of it. Because whatever I say, I'll get trolled.
Absolutely. I think we have encouraged a cancel culture, which is making people withhold their ability to be role models. And sometimes the role model you need is perhaps not the role model you like. Sometimes somebody has to say things that are not necessarily acceptable today, but will be required when you look back in hindsight. So I think what effectively cancel culture and social media has done is effectively reduced the ability of people who could rise up to become role models in society, and that goes for everybody. I think that's a casualty which social media has afflicted, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. But there are still issues that are universal, which don't polarize. I think people have started stepping away from anything which requires taking a position that's polarizing. We are such a polarized society today. It's unbelievable. And I wouldn't call it intolerant.
What is not going to cause polarization?
I don't think climate change can cause
Discussing
polarization.
what biryani is nice is polarizing these days. Discussing which Bengali sweet is nice is polarizing. Talking about movies is impossible. And if you start talking about things like the environment, I've started noticing this. A lot of people who used to be climate warriors and other things and are pulling back. And I've asked them sometimes, why aren't you talking about things like this? Why aren't you talking about air pollution? Why aren't you talking about...
Because there's no nuance left. You can no longer take a nuanced position. It is no longer possible to agree with X while disagreeing with Y without making an enemy out of Y. So the nuance in public discourse is all but eliminated because there's so much noise in my way or the highway that the nuance is all gone. And coming back to climate change, I think climate change deniers don't exist anymore. And that is an established fact. So it's universal. Climate change is real. The conversation that is polarizing on the climate change front, however, is the North-South debate. The global North versus the global South. Should the global South be paying the price for the entire havoc that's actually been wreaked by the global North? And is it fair? I think that is a polarizing conversation, but I'm happy to be in favor of the global South there. Should climate change take into account development? Is development possible with climate change? These are conversations that need to be had, Vikram. But the fact that remains, and I'm very proud of the position that our government has taken with respect to how we view SDGs and the kind of cost that it entails on us, and how the global North actually needs to step up to be able to shoulder a larger part of the responsibility, because they are part of the problem why we are where we are. And that's polarizing. But beyond that, I don't really see much polarization as far as climate change and sustainability is concerned.
I think the reason why I'm dwelling on this point a little bit is because when people are trying to get others to make a change in their lives, and when they are drawing attention to the problems that we are talking about, right? Plastic waste, conserve water, don't destroy the planet, worry about air pollution. I mean, we all live in the NCR and we know what the impact of that is. I think the reason why people have stopped raising awareness about it is because somebody will immediately come and saying, but you to drive in a car, why are you telling the farmer not to burn stubble? Or you yourself are drinking so much water, whatever it is. Why are you having a bath twice a day or once a week, whatever it is.
It's like
and that's the reason why I think people have started to pull back, and that's wrong, because people should be taking a more activist position on this.
I think advocacy shouldn't stop, but because, as you very rightly said, you can no longer be a climate change warrior if you don't condemn stubble burning. But, and again, stubble burning is a complex piece. We've been doing it for generations and generations and generations. It's that during a particular time that we were talking about, the overall levels of air pollution rise so much that the stubble burning, I'm not a stubble burning defender of any kind, but I want to clarify that there was a study that I read.
Before somebody suddenly starts talking about Punjab and who is in power out there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the parties you once used to be.
So the challenge is that during that time, the already high pollution levels and the contributing factors that come from stubble burning just send it over the edge. So there are multiple challenges that exist in being able to take a position on anything. Having said that, and that notwithstanding, I think it is possible to to find that balance where you say, you know what, I'll give you my personal example. I'm an electric mobility advocate. I'm still an adventure junkie. I do not think the two are mutually exclusive. It is possible to like and enjoy and advocate electric mobility. And it's also possible to be an adventure, adrenaline junkie. I don't see how the two are in conflict. Of course, if you must go and say, oh, but you take your adventure vehicles to the mountains and those emissions rise up, I mean, there's really no end to it. We can nitpick on everything, and which is what we were talking about earlier.
So the solution, therefore, is to say, yes, I like cars, I love cars, I like going on drives, I like bikes, but I'm doing X, Y, Z in electric mobility, and I'm working on new solutions on power, on electric power, which is what you are doing.
Which is really the, I mean, when you come and look at sustainability, what does it actually come down to? It's the air we breathe, it's the water we drink, it's the food we eat. First and foremost. And my experience of walking and traveling with a air quality monitor for about 2 years, all through 18 and 19 established, that by and large, apart from these sticky months in NCR, air quality everywhere is bad. Air quality everywhere is bad because we don't seem to value the air that goes into our lungs. We still have a bit of...
It's worse in North India than it is in the South.
It is, of course, because we also have higher particulate matter, it's more dusty, more construction sites, and unregulated construction sites, which of course now the NGT has come down very strongly on. But I think the point I'm simply trying to make, Vikram, is that there exists easy actionables that we all can adopt, and it starts with the air we breathe. And in my experience, and I have a picture, the third or the fourth day of the lockdown, I think 26th of March, the AQI in Mumbai was 13, just because vehicles went off the roads. That directly, immediately impacts you, the quality of the air you breathe. And that's purely a function of taking vehicles off the road. There's again a nuance there. It's not just passenger vehicles, it's commercial vehicles. It's easy to regulate passenger vehicles, bring about a scrapping policy, and move in that direction. But the bulk of the pollution, which a study in Delhi also indicated, is coming from commercial vehicles and construction sites. And not really from passenger vehicles. It contributes a very small amount, but it does contribute. And if we are able to find cleaner solutions and have vehicles with lower and no emissions, be it electric mobility for passenger vehicles or green hydrogen for bigger long-haul trucks, emissions is the first port of call because it's what we breathe, and we can't continue to keep breathing toxic air.
So let's now translate this into action points, right? What can people as individuals do? The normal reaction is to say, you're talking about climate change. What can I as an individual do? This is something for governments to do. Even a country can't do anything by itself. What can I as an individual do? What would be the answer to that question? And let's try and break it down into specific things. One is, of course, to do what you did, become an entrepreneur and start investing in companies or directly trying to find solutions. That's one. The second is to say, I'm going to personally practice a certain amount of abstinence or, recycle and be careful about what I'm doing. What would be the other specific action points?
I think if one can hit pause at every decision of consumption and think whether you really need to make that, and that consumption includes consumption of fuel when you drive, consumption of clothes that you buy, all consumption. If one can just simply hit pause and say, do I need to do this? I was on a very interesting discussion 3 days ago with a fashion activist who is a climate activist, climate warrior, a UN Goodwill Ambassador. And somebody asked her, what is sustainable fashion? She says, sustainable fashion is already in your wardrobe. The fact that you already have what you have is the sustainable choice. So if you have a choice between what's hanging in your wardrobe and buying something new, hanging in a wardrobe is the answer. But that again comes at odds with those people who make their living out of selling you clothes. So the circular economy and how that needs to be integrated in terms of recycling, upcycling, is where we need to focus a little bit without
and there are only
eating
a few
livelihoods.
areas, and there are only a few areas which are very clearly bad, like plastics, the overuse of plastic. Don't use polythene bags.
I think
Those
those are
obvious.
easy to fix problems.
And that's something which everyone can keep in mind because there are no two ways.
I think all of us have cloth bags. I keep at least 4 cloth bags in my car in every door pocket, simply because when I go somewhere, I don't want to buy. I mean, now stores are charging you money for brown paper bags or bags that you may buy from them. But things like reducing, okay, if I had to give my actionables, this is what they would be. Obviously, electric mobility, for sure. And there's no, I mean, I don't make a secret about being a very passionate advocate of electric mobility. 2, rainwater harvesting, composting, and as much solar energy generation as possible. I think the kind of policy incentive that the government of India has given, as have various state governments, for solar power generation in your homes. Grid tying remains a challenge, and I would really want to be able to use this platform to advocate ease of grid tying. I should be able to feed back into the grid the power I produce from my rooftop or from the society I live in Bombay. That still remains challenging. Some states have really taken the leap. Punjab, and not right now, just to clarify, Punjab has been running pilots of grid tying for the last 10 years. So nothing, it was already in a very, very good place before the present government took over in education and solar initiatives. So grid tying is something that we could all push for. It's very complex right now, and regulators are not very keen to partake. Distribution companies, discoms are not interested. These are larger actionables that every family can actively do in their own sphere without having to need support from somebody else. Rainwater harvesting, composting, making sure that you have as much solar generation as possible within your own home.
And there's an interesting aspect to that, because quite often when you are saying be sustainable, it was one of the earlier points that you made, that conserve, don't overuse, switch off the tap, be careful about conserving water. And that's important, of course that's important. But sometimes it's the other things you can do which may have a even bigger impact. Like what you said about rainwater harvesting. Actually, a fair amount of rain falls in India during the monsoon months. And if individuals, if residential welfare associations, if cities, if state governments, if at a national level, we would spend more attention in actually harvesting the rain, we may not have to worry that.
I think it's
that may have a bigger impact. You should do both.
At the risk of interrupting you, I think Maharashtra has been stellar in Bombay specifically. The BMC has been very proactive. They put in place mandatory rainwater harvesting. I think almost 10 years ago, our entire apartment block was dug up because we had to, and I was in the managing committee at the time, we had to institute rainwater harvesting measures. And our own water supply of our particular building is to a very large extent recharged by rainwater. And I want to give another example here. I have another property which is on the outskirts of Pune by a lake. I actually have a meter that measures how much water I'm charging back, because I'm funneling the entire rainwater harvest that I do. And the place that I have is very close to Mulshi Lake. It gets the brunt of the southwest monsoon, perhaps much more than Mumbai. And we actually measure year on year how much water we collect and how much we put back into the bore and how much we pull out. So these are all quantifiable things that actually have an impact.
And there are residential welfare associations, even in a city like Mumbai, which are doing
mandatory. It's mandatory in Bombay.
But in addition to rainwater harvesting, composting and
so garbage separation remains a problem. We are just lazy. We feel it's somebody else's problem. And that stems from how we are as a culture. Garbage ko hum touch nahi karenge, wo kisi aur ki samasya hai. How difficult is it to segregate garbage? And in fact, I think a really progressive way of dealing with garbage should be find a way to compost, and we will not take any wet garbage at all. There was a proposal in a bunch of municipal corporations in the country where the decision was that we will not, after a certain time, accept wet garbage. Your disposal of your wet garbage is your problem. Through incinerators, those churning machines that you have in your sink, or through composting, we will only take dry garbage. Because at the end of the day, it's also about the dignity of the person who's disposing your garbage. And that's something that we just have not been able to wrap our heads around as a society.
All right, so as we wrap this up, if the tag is no action, no action is not an option, your final message to the people watching this, the action that they can take and the action that they should take.
Affirmative action begins at home. It begins with the practices you adopt in your house, what you teach your children. And if you teach your children, it will have two advantages. One is that you will empower another generation, and two, there will be a constant check on you, because you may slip. But once you've told your child that this is not something we do, we don't litter, or we save water, or we put off the lights, or we work towards rainwater harvesting, these are concepts children understand. They will make sure you adhere to them. So passing on the message and constantly talking about it at every opportunity with your children is the one message I would like to leave the viewers with today, because they become a natural check on our ability to deviate from the path.
Is your 5-year-old already telling you when you're going wrong?
He's a plogger. I just learned about this term like 2 weeks ago. I said, what do you want to do this weekend? I want to go plogging. It's apparently picking up garbage from places. You go with a plastic bag. And I said, blogging, I know. But what is plogging? So he takes a little bag and he puts on gloves and he says, let's go plogging. And the idea is just to go pick up whatever garbage he sees.
Well, if a 5-year-old is doing that, it means that there is a lot of reason for hoping that the mission sustainability will actually eventually work out. Gulpana, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Vikram. Thank you very much for having me.
Vlogging is one catchphrase that we are all going back with tonight. I have to say, I have learned the meaning of this term tonight as well.
The school has taught that he's brought it from the school. I had no idea what it was.
Well, no better way to conclude this grand evening. Thank you very much, Gulpanag, for sharing that insightful journey, also inspiring us in multiple ways through the work that you do and through those words tonight. Thank you very much. Hashtag no action, not an option is the message that we are sending out. And Gulpanag is a living example of what we truly believe in. Thank you very much for gracing our occasion with also the tidbits that you've shared on how we can actually inculcate those practices to lead the way and ensure a greener, cleaner future for our generations to come. And that is a very strong message that we're going back with. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen, for those words. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that is what the Mission Sustainability Campaign is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, WION is committed to bring you those stories of the climate heroes, sustainability warriors like Gulpanag. We have a very interesting story also to share with you now. One such story of Akash Ranisan, who is a climate optimist and author of India's first carbon neutral book published by Penguin. And we're now getting you his story. Have a look.
When it comes to being sustainable personally, I have been practicing sustainability in my life for last a decade. I've been on a plant-based diet for last 8 years. Then I'm a nomad, so I don't have a home, I don't own any car or any vehicle. And then I live a very minimal life, which also helps me travel furthermore. But then in terms of textile consumption, it's almost close to zero. Practically, I have just 5 pairs of t-shirt and 3 pairs of pants. That's where I can really cut down on my consumption. Personally, but I'm trying that how can I take this knowledge and message to more people to help them act in this space as well. And one of the projects I've recently launched out is my book, I'm a Climate Optimist, published by Penguin. It's India's first carbon neutral book, which helps people understand how they can be more sustainable in each and everything they do, whether it's about food and beverage, textile, cosmetics, transportation or tourism or beauty, whatever it is. Not only about the work, even when it comes to living your life to the fullest, I have been a nomad for last 10 years and I've been traveling around the globe. The last trip I did recently was walking from Manali to Ladakh, which is a carbon neutral trip, and here's a glimpse to it. I've been living a sustainable life, and I hope that you do the same, because no action, not an option.
Well, no action, not an option indeed. And we hope that the conversations tonight have inspired you. They've certainly inspired me in multiple ways. And we at WION truly believe in a planet that will be cleaner, greener, and that is what the Mission Sustainability Campaign is all about. I also want to take a minute to thank those who have helped us in this journey, extending our appreciation to our partners for supporting our mission. And we're looking forward to getting more partners on board as we continue with this journey. Mission Sustainability is co-powered by Tesla Power USA with energy partners REC Limited and ONGC, Green Finance partner NABARD, Gourmet snacking partner Nutki, Clean Energy partner Gale India Limited, and innovation partner Fashion Entrepreneur Fund. Thank you very much for being here, and we hope that the ideas that we have exchanged tonight will go a long way in building a more sustainable future for all of us. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish. Inviting you all to please join us for dinner and cocktails.